Please come to order for this September 5th, 2023 regular meeting of the Planning Board. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First order of business is we have all regular members here and our alternates. I will appoint an alternate for Voodoo Holdings in place of Ms. Cook, who has not sat in on all of the meetings and been able to study all the material. So I think that will be, is Ms. DiPietro here?
Yes.
Yes, I think that will be Ms. DiPietro. Okay, and then, so next on the agenda is the approval of the August 1st, 2023 minutes. Moved by Mr. Harden to accept, second by Ms. Cook. Any comments? All in favor, please raise your hand. 5-0. Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. We actually have 3 public hearings tonight, so if you're here for one of the agenda items, you should wait until the hearing is opened. If somebody has anything else they'd like to address to the board that doesn't have anything to do with tonight's agenda items, but any other item, you're free to do that. Come to the mic, name and address, and that will be it. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Old business, item 5A, Voodoo Holdings, North High Street, map 13B, lot 10. This is the continuance of a public hearing. As some background, so this is an application to convert a restaurant to 6 apartments. As some background, we initially called a hearing in April and had that hearing, I think April 27th or something like that, requested more material, which was provided I think in the June or early July timeframe. The applicant was not here for the August meeting, so we could not review the application. But I see the applicant is here today. So, Mr. Boodoo, would you like to come up to the mic, please? Just introduce yourself again and...
Mike Voodoo, 656 North High Street, Bridgton.
Okay.
I didn't make the August meeting because the agenda was full.
I see.
According to Brenda, she notified
Okay.
me that the agenda was full for August.
Well, we had you on it, actually, so...
That was
but
July.
But we'll move on to...
That was July that you had me on for.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I stand corrected, I guess. Do you want to, give us any updates on the material you sent? Because it's been quite a while since you sent it in.
Last time we were here, the board was in favor, meaning that the application was completed. They did ask for a few things. One was Mr. Madsen said that he believed that the plan that we had, the site plan, was stale. So at that point there, he wanted to have a new dwelling that I built, several dwellings put onto the new plan. He wanted to also see there was a couple of wells that were still on the old plan, so I had that redone by the engineer. Another issue that you guys were bringing up was as far as the leach field, you wanted it inspected. I had Dyer Septic go over. He did a full inspection, which I turned the report into you folks with his conclusion. As far as there was another one with the well, the yield on the well. I did a report on the yield of the well, and you also have that. There was also another concern about sprinkling the property, fire sprinklers. And Mr. Garland had sent a letter to the board saying that we didn't need to fire sprinkle any of the new units if we could get them and/or the rest of the building.
Okay.
And also there was another question on the Bridgton police showing to the property. There was numerous issues that they wanted, so Mr. Jones sent over to, I want to say it was Brenda that he sent it to you, right, directly to you, Jones, about the report that he was looking for.
Yes.
So on that there, I went through on some of the police issues that were there. Some of them, I kind of got a list, 11 of them with animals being hit out on 302, which deer are constantly getting hit there. Some of them were for medical, for people that were there, and so forth. So at this point, I feel like the application is complete and anything that was asked is fully done. And I hope that everything's to your liking so we can move forward. And again, it has been 6 months, and the contractors that I do have lined up to do the job real busy now, but they say they can still come, but I keep putting them off depending on if we can get this to move forward.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking for.
Okay, and just so for the board, when in the OneDrive under the July 6th meeting, this was put in there a while ago, but just so you're aware, and the applicant had this, is essentially 2 pages from the board summarizing what was required to be turned in. So, okay, thank you, Mr. Boodoo. Is there anybody here in the public that would like to speak on the project? If so, yes, please go to the mic. Name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Suzanne Niemeyer, and my home is at 18 Alpenborg Lane, and I also own an apartment building on Dunrobin Lane, both of which touch on this property. My concern is that in the past, we have not had cooperation when problems have arisen at this address. We had a septic problem that went on for 2 years, and the septic was flowing, and we tried to work with Mr. Voodoo, but until the town got involved, that didn't work. And so when I bought my house, it was a motel, and I don't know when it changed to apartments. I don't know. I don't know the zoning here. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but it seems to me that a apartment uses more water and it's different than a motel hotel. So I don't know when all that changed, and I don't know what the status of the other units is. So those are my basic concerns.
Okay, thank you. Just as a note, we're only reviewing the conversion right now. We're only reviewing the conversion of the restaurant to the apartment buildings. But I understand your...
The other units are...
That's something that the code enforcement officer at this point has the ball on and is addressing with the applicant. It could be that that Mr. Voodoo will need to come back to this board if there's been a change of use. And so Ms. Day is responsible for determining whether there's been a change of use.
Okay, because I'd like to know if there's leases on those, if I just, it's...
Yep, I
Scary.
got it. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay. Why don't we move on to the board in terms of questions about the evidence? Ms. Miller?
Well, I had asked for a sample lease, which was included, and it seems to be a very, very simple lease, and it serves its purpose in designating the use of the space, but there doesn't seem to be anything about quiet hours, conduct, there is something here that there's a right of entry if there's a problem. But I don't know if a more complete lease would actually solve a problem. But I do think that the lease that's been offered in evidence isn't going to address some of the issues that seem to be
Okay, so
mentioned.
all right, but do you have any questions for the applicant on any of his evidence in addition to that?
Well, I wanted to know if you felt that this was a sufficient lease to do the kinds of things that you wanted to do to assure the safety of your property.
Mr. Boodoo, might as well come to the mic and stay there while we're while we're asking.
Yes, I live on premise, so I'm always on the property. And as far as your question, noise hours, I would believe that it's at anybody's residence. I believe Bridgton does have a curfew for hours. I don't know if it's 10 or 11 p.m. with a noise level. And I don't believe that the police ever been called to that for any type of loud music or anything that needed to be turned down. I used to run concerts when the bar was existing with 800 people on my back lawn, and Robbie Baker at the time, God rest his soul, said, as long as you guys are quiet by 10 o'clock, you can do what you want. I had Motor Booty playing on my back lawn for years.
So
And
you don't feel that there's a need to stipulate that?
I could definitely structure the lease if that's going to help, yes.
I'm not certain what the landlord-tenant relationships are, whether it would give you any more leverage or not.
Okay.
But it might satisfy some of your neighbors that you're exercising a little bit more.
Which the last meeting that I was here for, I had asked any of the neighbors, the abutting neighbors, so I believe there's 15, 7 on each street, and it seemed like just one road showed up, like the couple of neighbors on one road. And I believe that I asked them if they would go to the Bridgton Police Department and ask for a report of any disturbance or any noise or any vandalism or any trespassing, which it seemed like that's what they were concerned about, and nobody had brought.
Never got a response.
I never got a response, and I don't know if the board got anything from
Yeah, we
those
did,
neighbors.
we actually brought it up at the last, we did get it, and it's in the file.
Okay.
And it's been updated up through the end of August, and there's been 108 visits over the last 3 years and 5 months, which is 2.6 visits per month.
I was talking about the neighbors, like this woman here. If she's concerned about her property, if she had any vandalism, or if she ever had to call the police for any disturbances at her property.
Oh, I understand.
You know what
I
I'm
thought you were
saying?
asking about the police law.
No, I asked all the previous people that are her neighbors if
Okay.
they had any things that they could go and bring to us, and nobody could supply anything.
Did you take over the property in 2015?
No, 2015,
15,
correct.
so the report that we got is during your tenure as owner. and
Correct.
landlord.
8 years.
Okay.
Please go all the way back to.
Mr. Gibbs?
Just a quick question.
Sure.
The abutter said that it had a sewage problem for 2 years. Did you respond quickly when the town was
Yep,
involved?
the last meeting I had a response, so a couple of times, I have different sewer holding tanks and whatnot. There's floats inside of them, a couple of the floats got hung up. At that point, the health inspector from Bridgton had come out, and she was walking the property, and she says, I don't know what they're talking about. At that point, I did talk to Brenda and sent Brenda a itemized bill with photos of the electrical company that came out and replaced, I believe it's 3 floats, a high, a medium, and a low float, and an alarm that was, it was old before I bought the building and it was hung up, but as soon as it was able to be fixed, they had to wait for parts, it was fixed.
Oh, okay.
Kathy?
Yes, I was hoping you could clarify something.
Sure.
the report from Dyer indicates that on the property, there are 5 1,000-gallon septic tanks, one 1,500-gallon tank, one 2,000-gallon tank, that's the grease tank, one 4,500-gallon tank, one 2,000-gallon tank, and the site plan only has 1, 2, 3 tanks on it and one leach field. I was wondering if you could show me on the plan
Yeah.
where the rest of them are.
So we got the septic tank here.
Do you want him to mark it?
Right, yes.
Here.
It should be on the other plan that you have.
I've got
Okay.
them all here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it should be on the other plan, because the tanks are all right here. On this road here. Yeah, right here. The 2,000-gallon tanks there, the forced main is here.
Okay,
The
and the,
2,000-gallon, the 4,500-gallon, all right here.
right, and the 5 1,000 gallons
Yeah.
are,
And the rest. So there's 1,000-gallon down by my house, down here, there's 1,000
okay.
tank. Here's another tank that's.
Right, and we're missing a few leach fields too.
This is the main leach field here,
Does everything go to that leach field?
everything.
Kathy, can you speak into the mic just because I
Sure.
can't hear?
Does every tank go to that leach field?
Every tank except the one for my new house that I built on Beaver Pond. That
Okay.
has its own 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath septic tank with the leach field.
And the leach field is shown,
It's right there, existing leach field. Yep. And this, across the road, it's a 2.5-inch force main, and Dyer will tell you, there's pictures also that he inspected all this as well.
yeah, it's just we were missing some tanks, so I was wondering where everything was.
So Kathy, after looking at that, does what's in the narrative for the septic and the site plan there, do they match or not?
They do not match.
Okay, thank you. All right. Did you have any more questions, Kathy?
That was my question.
Okay, Rolf?
Did we receive a site plan with all
No,
the items on it that was
No.
requested?
no. So what we're missing was,
It's
The
all-
shoreline-
It's all
shore-
the document that we provided to you.
yeah, we provided these 2 pages to the
Right.
applicant. My records show that on the site plan requirements, number 5, I didn't find, which is basically a marking of the shoreland zone, the minimum and maximum setback lines, district boundaries. Wasn't sure about 10, which is easements.
Isn't that all in the original application that was submitted that you guys said
I
that was
don't-
fulfilled?
Not on the site plan you sent. And then the topography was partial. It was on the plan from the motel out towards going north, but not the motel going south. The other comment I would just make is it needs to list the name and address and/or phone number of who did it, and the site plan does not.
Does not.
So, anyway, you should keep going, when you get to me, I might follow up with some of that.
No, my point is it's incomplete.
Yep. Okay, hey, did you have anything else?
Nope.
Ms. Cook, you won't be voting on this, but did you have any questions of the applicant? No? Okay. Dan?
The only question I have, I see, because I had asked for the construction part side of it, that you have from, is it Philip Vernaccio?
Vernacular.
Vernaccio. the carpentry part's fine, because I know we don't require licenses, but plumbing, HVAC, and electrical, is he doing all of that?
He is gonna contract that out for us, yes, and he's gonna be doing most of the work, correct. I'm a licensed plumber in the state as well, so.
Okay, I was just gonna say, make sure that they're licensed in the state of Maine.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Are you licensed in Maine?
Yes, I am.
All right, my questions. I had the same comment as Mr. Madsen. And both the site plan and the septic plan are not, we don't know who actually put them together. They're supposed to have, they do have the name of the company. It says Stoneham, Mass. Actually tried to find that company online so I could get the exact address.
I can have.
I cannot find it online. These plans, just so you know, have to be, they have to have the name and address of the person that put the plan on, or the name of the person or company and their phone number.
Okay.
And
That's not a
they
problem.
should be stamped, and that should be by somebody who's a licensed site evaluator or engineer
Sure is.
that can attest that everything on that is accurate, that everything is there. Without that, it's difficult for the board to actually know if everything is depicted there. So that's my comment. I also have the same comment as Ms. Miller. The lease has no indication of prohibiting disturbances. And I think, at least initially, my understanding was that the lease included something like that. And so that's another observation that I was hoping to see, that something that made it clear that disturbances and certain things wouldn't be tolerated.
I can see those, but going back on the site plan and whatnot, the building's been there, it's an existing structure, we're not doing anything outside the building, we're just doing a remodel. We took the
Yeah.
bar out and
I
the
understand.
seats out, you know?
Yeah, I understand, but the site plan needs to reflect everything that is there, needs to have contour lines on it, so that the board, we understand what you're trying to do, but the board needs to assess the entire picture in terms of the apartments and whether there's any impacts or anything else, and know what's there, so that we understand what's there at this point in time. And without having a licensed site evaluator or engineer sign that plan, or at least put their name and address on it, there's no way of knowing that it's fully accurate. I understand what you're trying to do. I'm not saying that, I understand you're not planning to change anything outside. So, but if we deliver, assuming we deliver it tonight, the board will have to just make a call on whether they accept that or not.
The ordinance is pretty clear that
It is.
what is required.
So,
And for us to allow one not to provide it is,
yeah.
we can't
So
do
I
that.
think, so any other questions by the board? Is there anybody on the, I didn't ask if there was anybody on the Zoom that wanted to speak to Voodoo Holdings? No? Okay. So I think we have two choices here, is to deliberate and make a decision, because it has been since April, or to continue to ask for more material. Does anybody have, my feeling is we should deliberate, but I'm just one, what's the rest of the board think?
I'm okay with it.
With what?
Deliberating.
Mr. Mattson?
well, one of the things that we do is that we ask, before we start this whole process, whether or not the application is complete. and we make a determination whether or not the application is complete. In this particular case, I feel the application isn't complete. So I don't know how we can deliberate upon, working upon an application that isn't complete.
Well, technically, we started the review. So by starting the review, we
Accept.
We
Madam
accepted
Chairman,
it as
I
complete.
appreciate what you're saying. Please appreciate my opinion on this matter.
So if we're saying if the board were to say it's go back to it's incomplete, either
He has to
he has to remedy it. If the board feels we've essentially started the review and the applicant's had time to remedy what's been missing, and we want to deliberate on the evidence that has been presented us, then we should do that. Ms. Miller?
Well, if my memory and experience counts for anything in these deliberations, it seems to me that it is very important to have an official stamp, someone who's willing to stand behind the plan, an engineer and such. But I think it's a murky thing when you're not making any changes to the structure. And I think that we can differentiate between a totally new project and one that doesn't really impact the topography and all those other things that we would definitely need if it were just starting from scratch. Also, I'm a little concerned about number 5 on this list, a breakdown of the costs, which includes quotes from a general contractor. I don't recall that we've always, Dan, have we always asked for things like that?
But we asked for it in this case, and
We
the
asked-
applicant agreed to submit it, so.
Yeah, and the reason I had asked for a D was because of the numbers that were projected on there from the very first
Okay.
one, and it's been updated on the second one.
Okay, so I just wanted to know, I thought that you had asked that question, and since you're the one who knows what he's talking about in this area, I just wanted to check with you. Thank you. So I would say that the absence of the engineer shouldn't be an impediment on this particular application
Okay.
because there's no.
So you have a different opinion than Rolf and I?
Yes, I do.
because- Yeah, okay. So then I think we should deliberate.
Okay.
I will just say it's pretty clear what needs to be turned in, and we've held other people's feet to the fire for the exact same thing. Let me ask the applicant something, though. Mr. Boodoo, do you think you can go back and get a site plan which has all the requirements as listed here
Yes, absolutely.
and here,
Yes.
these 2 pages? So I just said we deliberate, but I think what I want is the board to vote on this. So, somebody make a motion in the positive and either to have Mr. Boodoo come back one more time, or the alternative to deliberate, and then we might have to make a second motion.
But
Okay.
if we deliberate, we can put conditions in there of getting the signed.
You can't do that. You can't put a
If we can't-
condition
If we can't put a
that,
condition on a signed engineer on it, then I would go,
Site
don't
plan.
deliberate.
because
I'm
you,
just saying it's evidence.
yeah, you can't, because if there's something there that's not showing on the plan, and then something shows on the plan that's there, then we've concluded the review improperly.
Yeah.
All right,
Then I'll
so,
make a motion that we don't deliberate.
and that we ask Mr.
We ask
Boodoo to
Mr.
come back.
Boodoo to come back with the signed, certified engineer from the state of Maine.
Same for the
with
septic.
plans. Same for the site plan.
Second.
Second by Mr. Madsen. I think there'll be some other things that get added so I would could we amend that motion to say to complete the incomplete items?
Yes.
Okay. So the motion on the table, and is that okay with you, Mr. Madsen? So motion on the table not to deliberate tonight, but to request the applicant to come back and fulfill the items as originally requested. And we'll let him know what those are.
Should we just reference the memo that we provided to him?
Uh,
Two-page memo?
I don't think we need it for the motion, but we can.
Yeah, I think we should, just so there isn't any
Yeah,
confusion.
I believe he has a copy of this already.
Yeah, he has
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
just so,
I believe it's a memo from April 27, but that's the only problem with the motion. So, okay, motion on the table, not to deliberate tonight, but to ask the applicant to come back and complete all the items on the prior list we have given him, and with, I believe it's April date, end of April date. Second, there's a second by Mr. Madsen. Any further discussion? Ms. Miller?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this is, although I had made that earlier statement, as I consider it, it is a change of use, and I think we have not been sufficiently aware of changes of use to ask all of the questions that may arise. Sometimes without making changes with the structure, the change of use will have a major impact on a neighborhood or on utilities or other aspects of it. So I do think that this is the cautious and the correct way of doing it. So I do agree, we should not deliberate.
Okay.
Question?
Well, we're in the middle of a motion right now that we have to determine the answer to. So, but we'll get to your question in a minute. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? No, 5-0. Okay, go ahead.
So my question is, as we keep deliberating month to month, I've talked to Brenda, she's issued me a building permit in the amount of $80,000. I paid the town $505 permit fee that's displayed in my window. So I'm very concerned on how the board is still questioning the code enforcer. She issued me the permit, so that means I can move forward with my work. In any other city or town that I go to, if there's a new structure or something being remodeled, you don't start nothing until you get a permit. So I have a permit through Brenda, and I originally sent Brenda an email telling her I wanted to replace a triple bay window that was leaking in the restaurant, and she said, well, fill out the building permit. I sent it to her, which I have the papers I can show you, and it said $1,000. That was the cost on me to fix it. And her response was, I don't know how you can turn a restaurant into a 6-room apartment for $1,000. And I emailed her back and said, on my original application, the permit fee, the cost was $80,000. Next day, I get a permit from her, and I paid $505. So how do you issue a permit without you guys
So
giving
let's take this
permission?
in pieces. So first of all, you're going to need to come back with all the information in the list that we sent you, and we'll go over that
Yep.
momentarily. Ms. Day, could you approach the mic, please? Could you just clarify what Mr. Boodoo has for a permit?
Yes. Everybody can get a permit while application is in process. It is at their own risk. They are told that anytime you start doing renovations to any building, which you can do renovations to a building, just doesn't mean you're approved for the use through the planning board as of yet. So it is at their own risk, and they're told that when they're doing it prior to.
Okay.
And we did have that discussion.
Okay, so he does have a permit?
He has a permit to replace some windows and doors, and I believe put up some walls inside.
Okay, but he doesn't have a permit to build apartments?
He can do any renovations he wants in there, it's at his own risk. If he doesn't get approved here,
Okay,
I mean, the
got
walls
it.
are there, but it can't be
So he's not
apartments.
approved for the use, but he's
Exactly.
approved to
Yes.
update the inside
Yep.
or whatever. Okay, thank you. All right, so Mr. Voodoo, you want to come back up and So we're not really deliberating yet. When we deliberate, it means we make a decision, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to give you a decision tonight.
That's fine.
But to clarify, the list we sent you, these 2 pages, that needs to be fulfilled. And so one is the site plan. Okay. So let me see if I got the right one.
That's number 1.
So you have the site plan and you have the septic plan. Okay, so this is just an example from this is the septic, but the site plan's got the same situation. This right here, it says Stone Property Services. That needs to have the address and the name of the person who prepared it, and they should put their name on here and sign it for it to be authentic. That's important. Otherwise, we can't depend.
But don't they have to be licensed for that in the state of Maine? I mean, I'm going through a similar thing,
The
that
surveyor.
the surveyor has to be licensed in the state of Maine.
Okay, it says perimeter survey of the affected parcels and interior lot layout made and certified by a registered land surveyor relating to reference points showing true point north graphic scale. And then on the site plan, and then there's some other things. And I got here an updated map of existing wastewater septic on the subject properties and the lot across the street signed and dated by a qualified engineer professional. Ms. Day, could you just clarify for us? Does it have to be a Maine licensed site evaluator? I believe it does, but, and this is obviously somebody from Massachusetts?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I know they have to be,
Pretty sure.
plumbers and electricians have to be Maine licensed, so I would assume so, but I don't know that the ordinance specifies that.
All
I
right.
can look. Let me-
So
let me
if you could look, and we might not get back to you on that tonight, Mr. Voodoo, but we'll get back to you so you know who has to do this plan and put their name on it,
I wish
okay?
I would have been known before I spent $3,000 on it before, like when she sent me
Well,
the ordinance.
It could very well be that the ordinance says a Maine certified engineer, and we just
Okay.
don't see it at this point. It's just a question. The other thing is, I think when it comes to the lease, it's been mentioned a couple times that with the calls that have gone to the property and some of the concerns that the lease should have something on there that assures that people know they can be evicted if there's any sort of disturbance. And, you know, that's up to you to kind of articulate that on the form, but I would, that's still pending as well. And then, let's see. Okay, number 5, as Ms. Miller said, a breakdown of the costs, which includes the quotes or contracts from a general contractor for the individual subcontract work, which you gave us, and the names of each general contractor and subcontractor doing the work. If, I would just say that it's possible he doesn't know that at this point, but if you do, those also have to be Maine licensed electricians and plumbers. So, you should try to do that. I think you had the bank letter, so I think you're okay like that. You did the proof of inspection of the septic system. Number 9, I think you completed proof that the existing well is intended to serve the proposed apartments, has sufficient capacity, I think.
Yeah.
We got that? Yep. We got the note from the fire chiefs, and we got the note from the police chief. So kind of where you are is getting getting the site plan and the site plan and the septic plan certified by the proper licensed engineer or site evaluator. And the lease there needs to be some assurance through the lease or some other way that there won't be the level of calls to the facility as there have been. So what we're saying is some assurance that this disturbances, noise, whatever, something in that lease
But
that
as far as.
binds other people to
As far as
that.
what we're discussing now is outside stuff, so like you said, moving forward with the construction, I'm gonna continue, or, because I have a permit, but it's at my own risk.
That's your own risk.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, can I get an assurance that once I give you folks, after I spend another couple $1,000s on whatever it is that you send me, that I'm gonna have an assurance that it's gonna move forward and I'm not just wasting money and time?
All we can assure you is that we will complete the review and deliberate and give you a decision. It would be improper of us to tell you that you give us that, then we'll approve you. That's just the nature of the game. But yes, you need to complete this so that we can deliberate and discuss whether, we believe it meets all the standards. So no, I can't give you that, we can't give you that assurance.
but
All we can assure is that if we get the materials, we'll
2
deliberate.
meetings ago, you said that the application was completed. Every single one of you said it was up to satisfactory, and now we're going backwards 2 meetings.
So
That's all I'm saying.
let me put it this way.
Yes, ma'am?
If we were to deliberate tonight, we would have to deliberate in a way that suggests that we don't have the evidence that's sufficient to render a decision or an approval.
Okay.
And so it's your choice. If we deliberate, we're going to deliberate on what we have, which doesn't meet the submission requirements for us to evaluate the standards. Or you can go back and get the material and then we'll deliberate. But I can't assure you the outcome. That's
So another month, or can I get, is there going to be an earlier hearing?
I think you'd have to do it by, October would be the meeting that you'd do it for.
Thank you for your
Okay?
time. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Chair, did you mention that the site plan should also, is part of it in the shoreland zone? I think you
Well, the
said
site,
that it should contain that boundary line.
yeah, I mean, that's all of, that's on, we'll resend this out and
It's all
I can hide
included in the
some of this.
request.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what should be on there, is where the shoreland zone is. There should be photos with the shoreland zone, et cetera. Anyway, we need to move on. Next on the agenda, 5B, Maker's Mill, Main Street, map 23, lots 108 and 109. We're continuing the public hearing. And yes, sir, would you like to come up, introduce your name and address, and just give us a summary of the modifications and explanations that have been turned in?
They got it. Didn't do the
Mind if I
stuff.
go steal the?
Yeah, absolutely, sorry.
Mine was small, mine fell apart.
Substantial.
Okay. I was gonna bring it up, but like, no, I'm just gonna let it go.
All right, so I'm Esther Bizier from Mainland Development, a professional engineer there. I think we've been here a couple of times now to talk about Maker's Mill. So a few of the revisions since last time. First up, the Depot Street Brewery. One of the comments last time was just, we had added a deck with covered roof. And I think there's a pretty general consensus, maybe even from us, that we weren't huge fans of that style. So it's now a roof where the pitch matches at a 412 pitch it matches the rest of the building there. I think it looks a lot better. Detailed in the materials that we sent you before the meeting, and also on the kind of lower plan there. And again, that's off the back side of the building. Just going through the letter that we provided, parking, so there was some discussion last time on parking. We did revise the parking narrative, so essentially we're providing There's a total of 87 parking spaces. There's a new 61 space parking lot, 9 spaces off of Depot Street. And then, there's 6 public parallel parking spaces, which are along Depot Street, essentially between 2 of the buildings here, which is a total of 87 spaces. And when we looked around at some of the other developments that have been done in town, and looked at the parking that was permitted for those and the parking that's being used for those, we came up with some numbers there as well, and then essentially based our count off of that. So when you consider the cafe, the 100-seat brewery, which the deck, by the way, doesn't change the capacity, so just a note there as well on the building. 8 small retail spaces and 14 apartments, and that, for reference, those counts include the existing building that's there. There's a total of 14 businesses. And that results in essentially a requirement of 77 parking spaces, with 19 being designated for the apartments. And when we look at that, we're providing, the 61 spaces, 9, and then there's 6 public spaces essentially in between, which, if somebody's parking there, they're probably going to be visiting a nearby business. With the 87 spaces, there would be enough to meet that count. In addition, the applicants opened up parking near Walgreens. There are plans, eventually to sort of develop that parking lot a little bit nicer. We're looking at, there'd be 75, right now there's space for about 75 vehicles there. On a regular basis, they're saying during busy times, there might be about 20 vehicles there. So there is still capacity for more cars to park. And that would be very close to this development, just, a short walk away. And that would be able to handle this overflow parking. So we did address that, and again, happy to answer more questions for that. You had asked about the DEP, so I did include a copy of the stormwater application. So we revised all the materials we had sent to DEP with some of the building revisions and site plan revisions from last time. So that specifically was when we pulled that building, the Brookside building forward. There were some significant, or I shouldn't say significant, but there were some revisions that we had to send them. So that information is included in your packets. We haven't received any comments. They're pretty slow to review anything these days. So there had been a question about fill and earth moving in the shoreline zone. So we've talked about it a bunch, but the shoreline zone does extend into that lot 109. And our calculations show that there's approximately 980 cubic yards of fill and earth moving for the project, and that's within the shoreline zone. But a note that that's all outside of the 50-foot structure setback, so there's no earth moving or fill materials being placed within that structure setback. The landscaping plan, so this was twofold. So we did revise the landscaping plan, or rather the landscape architect revised the landscaping plan. So there's now a plant list provided. There was a request for some evergreens kind of behind the parking and along Stevens Brook to just help provide more of a buffer. So that was added to the plan. And then the other item was street wall. So again, we have a lot that fronts Main Street and Depot Street. And the idea there is that the street wall will be via plantings. So we're looking at ornamental grasses. We did talk about some different options for that. And they're looking at doing ornamental grasses and shrubs. So they'll mature to somewhere between 42 and 48 inches in height. They can be cut back so that they don't interfere with snow removal and plowing of the public sidewalk during the winter. And they're pretty low maintenance, plantings that would look nice in the downtown. So That is what's proposed as the street wall and then also shown on the landscape plan. And then I think the last item, or I guess there were two other things. We talked a little bit about the water table and the fact that there is a basement in the brewery. So we were able to find a geotechnical report, or there had been an old ESA done on that property, and they had done some borings. And so they found a seasonal high groundwater table of 8 feet below grade. There's a lot of fill material, and then it's very sandy, with the stream being pretty significantly lower than the downtown. And so with that, we are looking, with the 9-foot basement, we are looking at, or 9 feet between basement grade and finished floor. We did raise the building slightly, and then we will obviously be doing a foundation drain, which was the plan from the beginning, and there will be some pump needed just to tie into the sewer. So, and that'll just be running seasonally when groundwater is at that height. So they will need to pump that to outlet. The other item was just the water and sewage usage for the development. I know we had included that in the original application. We did have a couple of changes to that just with the brewery and Brookside building. So we did include a revised letter from the sewer department and talked to the water department as well. So they were both, on board with that and said to obviously contact them if there were other changes to water or sewage usage. And we'll have to work with them just when they go to construct and do any of the development. So I think those are the revisions we made last time, but we're here for any further questions or clarifications that the board has. And again, just hopefully we're able to wrap things up tonight, but we will take your questions and comments.
So we'll go to the public first, as we usually do, and maybe the easiest thing this busier is to take notes so that we can have you address any questions from the public, all at once and not have back and forth. And then I'd ask the board to be in listening mode with members of the public. If you need clarification on something that a member of the public is speaking about, please ask to be recognized so we can do it that way. And so we'll start there. Is there anybody that's here that wishes to speak on the application? Name and address, please.
Paul Durod, 4 Hillcrest Avenue. My disclaimer, once again, is that I'm speaking as a citizen rather than any role as the select board member. It's interesting, people are in favor of development of the downtown, as I am. This development does not really meet the land use code as voted on by the voters, and that the planning board needs to review item by item. The parking is an issue, and I would hate to make parking the only issue, because no matter how many times you count the spaces, the parking still comes up as inadequate. That said, I know people have various opinions on the parking and the number of actual empty spaces. I'd like to concentrate on a few things that have sort of been skipped over, and I'll start with the sort of purpose of DVB1. The scale, pattern, and character of Bridgton's historical town center shall be maintained. That is the actual purpose of that particular development zone. The scale of these buildings, it is the equivalent of putting a city block that may fit in a Portland, may fit in a Westbrook, and plunking it into the downtown. I did not see any drawings. I do see these three-dimensional drawings, and I could have missed that, but I don't see any three-dimensional drawings that show this project along with all the existing buildings. And the reason is, all these buildings are the absolute maximum in height of 35 feet, 34 feet and 7/8 inches, with the exception of the Maker's Mill, which has, in addition to that, has a tower on top of it, which is, of course, unusable tower, so it escapes the zoning. The long and short of it is the scale of this project in no way, shape, or form fits in with that area of the town, or with really any piece of Bridgton. From the environmental standpoint, and I thank God every day I'm not an environmental engineer, but the revised stormwater plan, I noticed didn't mention the stage, and I did have a question on the stage itself, because the stage is a permanent stage. It doesn't seem to have associated with it any kind of permanent restroom. So I have a permanent stage, but I don't have permanent facilities to go with the permanent stage. So I'm not clear on that, or why it's not specifically mentioned in the stormwater revised plan. The earth moving, again, I'm not clear on. There's a mention of putting a few evergreen trees out to serve as a buffer to Stevens Brook. It seems inadequate. I can't say that as we contemplated the definition of street wall, that a street wall of a few shrubs is really a street wall. And again, that's certainly up to the planning board. From what I understood of that revised letter, the high water table under the brewery is 0.2 feet above the high water mark of the water table, and the sump pumps are going to be pumping at some times, and it wasn't clear where the sump pumps were going to pump to when they came out of that, as to whether they were being captured in any kind of a spot, or whether ultimately they were just going to make their way to Stevens Brook. She mentioned that the covered porch does not increase, and it does look much better, does not increase the number of people served, but you do have to go back one iteration when that deck was added, which did increase the number of people that were in the original project by 37. So this change does not change the number of people, but the prior change did increase the seating capacity by 37. Again, I have concerns about the second floor short-term rentals or residents, as to whether whether all those 16 units are really residents as people envisioned when they voted on these land use ordinances, or whether they are really individual businesses. I think and again, I don't want to spend too much time here, but I think because obviously the onus is on the planning board to make sure, no matter what their personal views are on the downtown and the haste in which we need to develop it, that the objective here is to really look for conformity to the land use code. And again, when I turn to general review criteria, both section A, section B, section C, and I can read them. The first one's general, the second's preservation and enhancement of the landscape. C is relationship to surroundings. D is vehicle and pedestrian traffic.
I don't think you need to read all of them, Mr.
I will
Durack.
only
The
make
board's
one-
familiar with the
okay.
standards.
I'll only make one
Tell
point.
us which ones that, you've highlighted a few. Just tell us which ones are still of concern to you.
All of those ones are of concern to me, and I have a question on traffic circulation, because in the plans in a few places, there's an emphasis on changing the entrance from Gibbs Avenue, so that people would enter on Gibbs Avenue and have a one-way exit onto Depot Street. But I'm looking at that plan, and again, I could be reading it incorrectly, but the entrance on Gibbs Avenue seems to lead to, and that exits onto Depot Street, seems to lead to 8 parking spaces, which I would think, given the uses of that building, would probably be spots that were kind of spoken for by the second floor short-term rentals. So for circulation, it would seem like there might be the error of people entering on entering on Gibbs, going by the 8 spaces that are either not available because someone's parked there or not available because they're earmarked for short-term rentals, and then coming out onto Depot Street from a different angle.
Yes, so just a clarification, you're saying that they're earmarked for short-term rentals. The applicant has not proposed.
He's not said what they're
Earmarked
for.
for second floor residents.
Okay,
So as far as I can tell, that is the circulation that goes through Gibbs Avenue and one-way exits onto Depot Street, which is mentioned a couple times here, and seems to me more likely to cause confusion than to actually help traffic circulation.
But Gibbs doesn't go into Depot.
just, let's, do you want to ask a question, Ms. Cooper?
No, I was just stating that Gibbs is its own loop. It doesn't even attach to Depot Street.
No, the entrance to Maker's Mill parking is mentioned in the plan as so people won't go down Depot Street, they'll enter via Gibbs and exit onto Depot. And again, as far as I can tell, that route is going to take them to a grand total of 8 parking spaces, and more likely than not,
Yeah, so
circle
we'll let the
back.
applicant answer
Well, no, I was
that
just-
question. Yeah.
Thank
Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? Please identify yourself.
you.
Name and address, please.
My name is Kenneth Murphy, live at 72 North Road in Bridgton, Maine. I have a few things after listening to Mr. Tubog. I came here in 1955. I just want to put a little history on size of buildings. The grammar school that I attended on Gibbs Avenue was much higher than any of these structures that we're talking about. The Pondicherry Mill was much higher than any of these structures we're talking about. And downtown Lower Main Street, when I was a child, was a very active, very busy part of the town of Bridgton. And this proposal is helping to bring back that part of this town. To get to parking, I think I've heard it up to here from my youth to today, and I've been back here for 16 years now, about how we need parking here, parking there. You know, when I see the 4th of July and music on Main Street, and everybody seemed to find a parking space, and they learned how to walk. God, what a concept. So, you got to stop talking about parking. When they have proposed to give you so many parking spaces, you know, they're running the numbers too. You know, I know it's your decision. I get it. This is not Portland. This is not Westbrook. This is not any other town but Bridgton, Maine. And this development is going to be a positive part of this town. Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would wish to speak concerning this application? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Busier, would you like to address some of the questions that came up? I'll quickly go through them in case something on scale, your comment on scale, comment about the restrooms and the stage, comment on the plantings, specifically the pine trees and the street wall, the comment on the sump pumps and where they're pumping, and the seating capacity, and then the traffic circulation. I think if you have more, you can obviously speak to it. That's the ones I came away with.
Yeah, that's what that matches my list too,
Okay.
in general. Other than, I mean, you know, as far as parking goes, we're in the downtown, we are providing, you know, let's see, nearly 87 new parking spaces with this project, which is pretty significant, when you compare it to some of the businesses along Main Street that don't have any designated sort of private parking. As far as, and again, not that this will be private parking, apartments will have designated spots, but, you know, the intent is somebody could park here and then visit every business in Main Street if they wanted to. As far as sort of the scale and pattern and character, so one of the intents and one of the things that we looked at really hard, or the architects looked at really hard initially, was trying to make these buildings match the character of some of the older buildings that have been torn down in town. So especially when you think about the brewery and then Maker's Mill with the bell tower on it. The structures, I'll be honest, I don't recall the exact heights off the top of my head, but I know that they don't exceed the height requirement. And most of them are lower than the height requirement. You know, the brewery building, which is essentially, you know, the one that's right on Main Street, I believe it's only about 20 feet high. So it's really going to be very similar in scale to the restaurant that's directly across Depot Street. And then once you go back from that, what, you know, is referred to as Potter's Place, that's a 2-story building. And that will be similar height. The Brookside building will be a little bit taller, but again, we're not exceeding any of the height requirements for that. The intent was to make something that will fit in with the downtown, not, you know, be a skyscraper and stand out like a sore thumb. As far as, you know, kind of moving on, so the stage is intended to be a permanent structure, so it was included in all of our stormwater calculations and phosphorus calculations as a covered structure. Maker's Mill, so one of the intents with that building, there's public restrooms. So there's designated public restrooms, so if somebody was there, you wouldn't even have to necessarily go into one of the businesses to use a restroom. So that's, you know, worked into that. The model there. As far as, so the plantings, so the intent isn't necessarily to build up more of a buffer along Stevens Brook. The intent of the evergreens is really just to provide a little bit of screening. So we're doing pretty minimal clearing to construct some new parking. And this will just help replace a couple of the trees that are being cleared for that. We're not, you know, planting a wooded buffer for stormwater. We're decreasing the impervious area overall and actually decreasing our phosphorus export as a result. And there is a small pond being provided for some treatment specifically on that lot in order to protect the water quality of Stevens Brook, which drains to Long Lake. So the intent is really to have us, you know, improve our impact and, you know, minimize our impact where possible. For the plantings on the street wall, it's not just a shrub here or there, it's a line of the shrubs and grasses, with the intent that it's a dense enough planting in order to meet that requirement. So that people aren't going to be cutting through a landscape island, you know, to get to there. They won't want to walk through, you know, a wall of 4-foot tall grass in order to do that. As far as the foundation drain, so we are proposing to outlet on Depot Street into the storm drain network. We did look at some different options for that. There was an option to potentially run it gravity out towards Stevens Brook, but it would have been pretty impactful. We would have had to, one, cross Depot Street and several utilities, and also it would have meant we would have needed to get into the stream embankment. And really our goal is to try to disturb that, you know, as little as possible. So this was really the better option to send it to the storm network. As far as the second floor, they are intended to be residences, so residential apartments, not short-term rentals, or anything like that. I think we've been pretty clear about that in our application materials, but it's not the intent of the project. And then for access, so access to the parking spaces behind Maker's Mill building, so specifically to those spaces, would be from Gibbs Ave. If somebody was to drive through there and they're looking for a parking space, they'll come out on Depot Street. And pretty close to directly across the street, if they took a left, then they would be able to find the parking lot beside and behind the Brookside building. So the intent is that, this whole development is sharing parking and providing some additional parking in the downtown. The intent's not to confuse anybody. And there will be some appropriate signage that states where parking is available, and they'll be watching for that. I do expect that several of the spaces behind Maker's Mill, and I believe we stated it in the application, would be designated for the residents in those apartments. So I anticipate that most of the parking really will be for the public who are coming to visit, will be in the 61 space parking lot. So I think that went through all the questions, I think.
I think so.
But, yeah. And did you want to add anything, Justin?
Hey, Board. Public
Name and
hearing.
address, please.
Justin McIver, Manica Homes, 175 Portland Road. Thanks for having me, and appreciate all the feedback and that we've listened and provided additional information for the board. Made reductions, additions, and I think it's a better project now at the end, so I'm really happy with all the feedback and everything that we've done here. I just want to thank our team and our architect and everybody that worked for years on this, the town. Our engineer, Esther, was a real professional. She did a great job here. Just want to say thank you to Ralph, and I hear you, and this is important to me too, to get this parking right for the town. And, I understand your concerns and I value your input, so thank you, Ralph. We're going to monitor this very closely as we're doing at the gateway right now. We've had zero problems. If we need to make any adjustments, we'll make the adjustments needed. The last thing I want is any problems in this town. I care just as much or more than anybody about this, getting this project right, and for the future of Bridgton. But we studied this very, closely, have a strong basis, very similar to the Gateway. Other properties that we have is how we've calculated what we need for this project. And I think Bridgton has actually a good sweet spot, not too much parking, but not too little. It's actually a good balance, I feel, right now. Just the signage improvements, which the town's making, which is really great. When you see a Gibbs Street parking, people don't know what that is, and a lot of people have said that to me, that parking signage is lacking. So I understand the town just implemented public parking signs, which is really critical for all this, because there's so many parking lots that aren't even used in the town at its busiest times. And when we left here last meeting, we were parked up here and the whole municipal was empty, so at 7 o'clock or something. We went over to the Queenshead Pub, half of that lot was empty. A lot of the retails and everything's down during the day, so at nighttime, right, when it ramps up, there's plenty of parking for this stuff and for the brewery. But it is good to go out, and we haven't had one complaint at Music on Main for parking. It's over 3,000 cars that come in, and it's really actually good. This is what we're trying to do, When I was on the community development committees, how to stop people, get them to walk around town. This is what you want. This is what we're doing here, is what it makes towns sustainable for the long term. Let's see. Paul, I hear you and understand your concerns. Thank you. I appreciate what you're doing for the town, and we both want the best for Bridgton, right? So let's keep communicating and uniting, and listen and understand each other and what the community's needs are.
As you know, we can advocate for parking signs.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's really important. But my door's always open if anybody ever wants to come to my office and talk with us. We're really strongly partnering with the community and everybody and trying to make this really special for the future of the town. So hopefully we met all the ordinances and we put our best foot forward here and try to listen to the board and what they wanted from us. So I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Okay. So now we'll go to questions about the evidence from the board. And I would just remind board members that their questions should be related to the standards And praise or criticism of an applicant before the board should be limited and factual, such as the application is well organized, the landscape plan is functional, aesthetically appealing, or road design conforms, so forth and so on. Personal praise of the applicant or criticism could be seen as bias. So I just asked, this is, I think we've gotten 2 supplemental sets of evidence. I trust everybody has looked at it, and if we could just do that, starting with Ms. Miller. Questions for the
Let
applicant?
me say, without praising anything, that many of the principles of town planning have been addressed. And I do believe that the applicant and his team have paid attention to those things. However, I'm very concerned about this shrubbery wall. It's my understanding that the vegetation was added as part of the description of the wall, the definition, for small areas that existed between existing buildings or between buildings. And I believe that this is a significant span of Main Street. And while the plan does accept many principles of town planning, walkability and community involvement and everything, it does not address one of the major things of planning in a town, and that is addressing the main street, which incidentally is called Main Street. Esther, you mentioned that you chose the landscaping in that area because it could be cut down. So what you're talking about is a temporary, a temporary street wall. And I think that, and I know that, I'm not thinking here, I know from the work I've done, from the reading I've done, from the planning commissions I've attended, and from sitting at a table like this, either upstairs or here, for many, many years, that one of the things that you want to do is to enclose the street. You want buildings to address the street. You know it, and I know it. You even said the brewery is right on Main Street.
So, Ms. Miller,
part of the
wait,
ordinance.
I'm going to
part of the
stop you right
ordinance.
here. You've made this point since the very beginning. What standard?
And I'm going to continue
No,
to make
you
it.
won't.
But
What
it's not in the
standard? You will
ordinance.
first let the board know what
standard
standard you're talking about.
Of a conformity with the buildings on the street, maintaining that line of Main Street that the street wall was intended to address. So there wouldn't be any gaps in the streetscape. That is what I have been working with every single economic or community development director this town has ever had. That was one of the important things that everyone wanted to maintain, the character of the Main Street. And I think that the parts of our code that were read by Mr. Turog are the ones that I am also most concerned about.
Okay, do you have a question about the evidence for the applicant? You've given her comments. What is your question?
My question is, if this can be cut down to accommodate the snowplow, then is this indeed a permanent structure, which it seems to me that the street wall should be.
Can you answer that question, please?
Yeah, sure. So the intent would be that they could cut it back. In the winter, if they're plowing, you're going to end up with a snowbank, and we're only going to clear the walkway areas to access the development. So they would probably cut it back, late fall, There's still gonna be plantings there, so it'll still be a very obvious planted bed. But once there's, one pretty small snowstorm, it'll be, again, very well defined. And then the vegetation is, it'll come right back in the spring. And obviously, it'll be maintained, to an appropriate height from there. Though it's intended, the specific plantings they chose wouldn't grow to exceed the board, like the height requirements in the ordinance.
But it would then start from zero.
No, it wouldn't start from zero.
Because wouldn't you be cutting them back?
It wouldn't be
And some
cut.
die down because these are perennials, but they're not evergreens, or they're not permanent. They don't have trunks. And so you would have this growing wall, but I maintain, and I guess I am not allowed to say, because it isn't a question, but what is the objection to an actual wall?
As far as an objection to an actual wall, part of it would be where the feel that we're going for here. So instead of, when we discussed it, we felt in general that the vegetation would be more attractive, and also help to kind of match what the town has done along Main Street with some of the plantings along Main Street, beside the curb as well. So there's a couple of planting beds along that section between Gibbs and Depot Street. And so the thought was that this would kind of help tie that together.
So regardless of the concept of addressing the street with your major buildings, which is a concept of town planning, you're overruling that.
Now, Ms. Miller, you asked her a question, she answered it.
And I'm asking you another question.
And you're making a comment about how she answered it. That's for deliberations. Mr. Gibbs.
Just have some questions about numbers. I think at one time you said there are 19 parking spaces for the apartments, and your original plan shows 12. How did you get 7 more?
Yep, when we looked at the parking numbers, so initially we had only, I think, done 1 per, but we're now using a ratio of over 1 parking space per apartment. So I believe there's 14 total, so we arrived at the 19. And that's based on the number of spaces that are used at some other developments for residential parking spaces.
My question was, where did you put these extra spaces?
Yep, so some of the spaces will be behind Maker's Mill, and then the remaining will be in the bay of parking that is probably closest to the Brookside building. So we haven't actually shown which spaces are designated for the apartments on this plan. I think that's something that, we're saying there'll be at least this many designated, but the location could change potentially based on how they see sort of the pedestrian flow. But there'll definitely be some behind Maker's Mill, and then again, one of the bays adjacent to the Brookside building.
And there seem to be 2 numbers that people use for the number of apartments. Can you tell me what is the specific number of apartments there'll be?
So the number of apartments total?
Total, yes.
Yep. So I wish I had brought my other sheet, but in the process of moving, apparently I lost it.
Esther.
But we're at.
Excuse me.
Oh.
Esther, can you show us on your drawings where those apartments are?
Yeah. So there's apartments in both of these buildings, and when we've talked, these would probably be designated, and either this bay or this bay would probably be designated spaces.
And there's 12 apartments, I'm sorry, Ken.
Yeah,
Yeah, let Ken finish, please.
Just saying-
how
I'm
many-
just saying where the apartments are to the spaces.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
how many are there? You just said 12. Someone said 14, and someone said
Yeah, that's what I'm
There's,
saying.
16.
there's 14 total.
14
Yeah.
total. Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the specific number
Yeah.
that we're dealing with. Okay, that's good. Okay. And is it permissible for me to say that I think it's was really a good thing for the brewery, the response to the public suggestions for how to change the,
You
The
can
roof
say it's
structure.
good that they're responsive.
good that you're responsive there. Thank you.
Ms. DiPietro,
Yes, I have a few technical questions.
you're going to have to get closer to the mic.
Closer to my mic, I can tell, sorry. Has to do with the pavers within the 50-foot setback. Can you tell me or clarify why those would not meet the definition of structure within the shoreland zone?
So they probably do, to be honest.
Okay, okay.
Because I think it does include pavement for a surface such as that, correct?
Well, given that,
But-
are you requesting a waiver from that 50-foot setback?
So we are not in this case because there's an existing gravel path behind there. So the portion that I believe you're referring to is behind like building A. And there's an existing gravel path that ran behind that building, which I believe would also have been considered a structure or impervious surface. So we're proposing that that would remain the same.
So just, could I ask a follow-up, Ms. DiPietro, for clarification?
Sure, please do.
So, would it be your stance that the pavings, which are structures, are really, you're essentially using it from a non-conforming structure? You're not, the footprint's already there, the impervious footprint is already
Right.
there,
Yeah.
and you're suggesting that the pavers, in essence, are still an impervious.
They'd be
They're
impervious
within that
for impervious.
existing footprint.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so there is when we looked at the survey plans and existing conditions, there was already a path there, and we're just looking at maintaining that. It's the same width, we're not getting closer to the brook. And the other sort of improvement of going with pavers versus keeping it gravel, which we did discuss, was just that the pavers would be a more durable surface, and, essentially less, there's gonna be less erosion or less runoff, well, probably a similar amount of runoff, but less sediment and things like that from that, so.
So you don't feel that you should have to request a waiver from that particular standard? Do you know if indeed you did request a waiver, you would meet the requirements of that waiver?
We didn't request a waiver, but I suppose we could have.
Yeah, I think the board would have to decide, if it fits into the non-conformance area, then a waiver is not required. So that's what the board would have to
Make that decision.
determine.
Okay. I'm not done yet. Okay.
She's back.
She's back, yes. Now that we have expanded parking area, the plan for snow removal and plowing, and how would that impact the filter pond?
Yep, so as far as snow removal, there wouldn't be any snow stored in the filter pond. They'd be looking at storing snow, off the edge of the parking lot that's adjacent to the property line. So if you're looking at the plan, it would be the west side or, on the side adjacent to the house. I think you're pointing to it,
Yes.
kind of on your
I
plan.
am, I've got it here.
And, when snow piles get too large, they're gonna have to cart some off-site as well, so.
Okay. Another design question. Were you constricted by the amount of available land to a filter pond that would only treat the, basically 0.32 acres?
Yeah, so we looked at that, at the size of that pond pretty closely. So one, when we ran the numbers, we didn't need a pond, per se. So we ran the numbers based on phosphorus calculations. And with the amount of impervious surface that is existing and has been existing since before 1980, and then the proposed improvements where we're paving versus gravel, removing a lot of the imperviousness, having a lot more grass areas than gravel, things like that. We were reducing our phosphorus export anyway and wouldn't necessarily have needed a filter pond. But we did want to provide some treatment because we're adjacent to Stevens Brook and constructing, again, even though there's a large gravel area back there, we are proposing a pretty large parking lot as well. So we looked at what a good size would be, and the size we landed on, essentially we were able to treat portions of the building and a portion of the parking lot, so about the 0.32 acres. And it kept the filter in a sort of a reasonable footprint where we weren't getting into the shoreline zone structure setback, or within that 50-foot buffer to Stevens Brook. And where it also just, still allowed us some additional green space out back, and space for the path, and the parking. So it was a little bit of weighing the options there. We wanted to maximize parking. We were meeting the stormwater and phosphorus numbers specifically, but did want to provide some treatment. And that pond does help reduce the phosphorus export and treat that stormwater from the building and the parking, and portions of the lawn area, and also helps reduce some of the peak flow rates as well. So that was just important to the applicant that we do that, even though it wasn't 100% necessary to meet DEP or meet the ordinance, but.
Right. And lastly, the retaining wall, it looks as though the toe end of that retaining wall is at elevation 401.
I believe so. I'd have to check the plan.
Okay, that
but
is your 100-year flood elevation, just.
I think it's right at it.
Right, in which
probably.
case that probably puts you into item K, part 4 of the.
Yeah, and we were working with Brenda on the floodplain application.
Okay. And also a structural engineer for buoyancy?
So we hadn't
Hydrostatic.
hadn't done that yet, but that would, I think, come later in the design process.
That it, Kathy?
That's it.
Okay, Mr. Mattson.
First, I appreciate your ingenuity about handling the street wall. Thank you. And half the reason why I was bringing up parking a lot is I wanted to make sure that in working this through, we would get as many parking spaces as we possibly could in the development. With that being said, you originally had proposed making a bridge over the parking lot over by Walgreens. Is that still going to be in this current development phase? And the second question is, that parking lot on the Walgreens side needs a lot of work. When would that get done? Because obviously, when you were trying to encourage people to park and walk, they want to park in a nice place to do that.
Yep, so the first sort of easy answer is that the bridge is still a part of the plan. I think there's been rumblings in town about styles and things like that. Right now, we're still proposing the bridges as shown in the original application. It would be, this project isn't going to be built all at once, sort of anyway. They'll have to go building by building, so I anticipate the bridge, where that falls in this process, I'm honestly not 100% sure. There's obviously, other reasons for constructing it than just these 3 new buildings, where there's also some existing development that, it will help serve as far as pedestrian flow. And then the Walgreens site, right, I'd have to let Justin speak to that, but I know that they are planning to do something there and improve that improve that lot and would be coming to the board for that, so.
I would like to see, I would hope that you might be able to do so, is to have that bit of parking and the bridge completed at the same time as the entire project is completed. I think it would help you out, because obviously you want to increase flow of pedestrians and potential shoppers and music goers, and they all need a place to park. Thank you.
I don't have any questions, but I will say, can I make a statement?
Just needs to be related to the standards or to the applicant's actions?
Well, I will commend the applicants on completing the application accordingly. And I will hold my statement for a moment.
Okay, you can make statements during deliberation.
Okay.
Mr. Harden?
I am good at the moment.
Okay. So I have a couple questions. Some I'll do the follow-ups first. So the designated public parking that you referred to for the, stage when there's people, not designated public parking, the designated public restrooms. Where are those on the plan?
So on the Maker's Mill building, there's essentially, there's kind of like a walkway, so it's a covered like walkway between, there's a shop off of Depot, and then the other shops are kind of higher up, and there's a walkway in between, and there's restrooms kind of off of that hallway, so.
Okay, so, and I assume it would be made clear those were for the public. And I also assume those are incorporated into whatever other engineering plans, whether it's stormwater calculations or wastewater calculations.
The big thing is wastewater, because it relates to water usage and sewer, so.
And I apologize if you already pointed this out, but did you say that the residential parking spaces would be so marked?
Yes. Yep.
And everything behind that building is residential parking, correct?
I believe we may leave a couple of spaces for the tenant, for the, businesses,
Okay.
that they could use, since they'll need to be coming in and out of there.
But all the residential spaces, which I think is 1.3 times your 14, will be marked.
Marked out on site, yeah, between the two parking lots.
Can you just comment on it wasn't clear to me for plowing, where the snow removal areas were, on some plans it actually shows where the snow will go. Could you clarify that, please?
Yeah, and we should have showed that, and so it's a little bit of an oversight there, but we'd be looking at snow removal in this area, and then on this lot, it's really going to be, there's some small storage areas, but it's going to be more of a plow and haul off site, just due to limited space.
Okay. And in terms of the plantings that are designated for the street wall, you talked about them needing to be cut back due to plowing. Can you just go into a little bit more detail on that? Because I'm having a hard time envisioning why that is.
I suppose it may not need to be cut back. I think that would kind of be if the plants need to be for some reason in the winter. They're not going to be growing into the street per se.
Right.
I think it would just probably help them survive more if they're cut back during the winter.
Okay, so
I'd have
you're not
to-
cutting them back specifically to be able to plow?
No.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
I'd have to ask somebody who knows more about planting
okay, but
than I do.
the plan, so, I'm glad you clarified that, because I misunderstood. I actually
Sure.
thought they were being cut
Oh,
back
yeah.
to accommodate plowing
No.
and snow removal, and that's
Right.
not the case.
Yeah.
It's to do whatever procedures required for plants in the winter.
Yeah, and also I think then you have more of a place for your snow to be piled from the sidewalks as well, so.
And these plants that are on the street wall, are they permanent, meaning they're perennials?
Yeah, they would be permanent, so they would be growing right back every
Okay,
spring.
so they would be perennials. Does the applicant have any plans to have somebody that's, I guess, take care of them?
Yeah, they'll be.
So that they don't get weeds and look ugly?
Yeah, so they'll be contracting that. You know, I think Maine Eco Homes, they do a pretty good job with all of their developments in town, making sure that things are nicely landscaped and maintained. So they'd be doing the same here.
Okay, and now I get back to my original questions. Could you, in your narrative, you talked about the number of trips per day at peak times. And my recollection is you said overall 455 trips a day. The cafe and brewery, though, would be have something a little separate, where it sounded like it was an add-on of 78 trips per hour for the cafe in the morning, and then 23 per hour for the brewery. And then there's a comment that this would have a minor impact on traffic. So could you just explain why you, that statement, why it would have a minor impact?
Yep, so when we looked at the trip counts, we're looking, one, at the fact that the peak traffic is staggered, so the cafe will be open in the mornings and they close early afternoon. The brewery won't open until lunchtime, and then their prime time is really in the evening. And at that point, all of the retail spaces will generally be closed. And again, the stage, that's sort of a special event, so that's not an everyday use. But as far as sort of the minor use, there were existing and are existing businesses on site. So until pretty recently, you know, there was a business on lot 109, which had a relatively high traffic or trip count. And then, you know, on lot 108, there is the existing Potter's Place building and restaurant, and then the florist. There hasn't been anything done, I think, in the garage for several years, but there used to be trips being produced by that. So just when we looked in general at the staggered trips, and then that just in the very recent past, there's a pretty high traffic generator on lot 109 with that Stone Surfaces building, and former grocery store, I believe I heard. We were looking at that, and in comparison, the peak wouldn't be a whole lot different.
Okay. I think that's it for me. You don't need DOT approval for this, right? You don't need any?
So we haven't, no, we don't.
Does anybody have any follow-up questions for the applicant before we deliberate? Ms. Miller?
You mentioned the staggered parking because of the business hours of the
Yeah.
places. To maintain that plan, are you going to have to impose permanent limitations on the business hours of those establishments?
So I believe that will be up to the applicant. You know, in general, like, they're looking for tenants who are planning to operate during those hours. Those are the intents. If there was something that changed where, say, there's some different type of business that doesn't fall under one of the classifications that we provide, or uses we've provided in this application, then we'd need to come back to the board, and then we'd need to take that into consideration. But you know, in general, that's what we see with most of the retail businesses in the downtown, where they're closing in the early sometime in the early evening, say 4 to 6 p.m. And the brewery, the operator for that business has already said that they'll be like a noon to whenever in the evening. And I'm not 100% sure on their closing hour, but
Oh, I didn't want you to tell me the actual minute,
no, I
but just
know,
if that would,
in general.
to
Yep.
maintain that plan, if you'd have to make any long-term restrictions. Thank you.
Any more follow-up questions from anybody else on the board? Is there anybody in the public that wants a last chance to speak or hasn't been recognized to speak? Please go to the mic now. Seeing none, I accept a motion to close the public hearing. Moved by Mr. Mattson, seconded by Mr. Harden. All in favor, please raise your hand. Well, sorry, any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. 5-0. Okay, so let's get into deliberating.
I would like to make a motion to approve the project.
Can't do that.
Why?
You have to go through, board has to go through every single standard
Findings of fact.
before approving. That's
How many more times are we going to ask these contractors to come before us, though?
That's the procedure.
That's the procedure.
We
We have
as a
to do
board
this.
have to, they've given us all the evidence and their point of view, and we've given them our questions, and they've come back with more evidence. So now it's our job to weigh the evidence we have, both the verbal and what the board has said and written, and go through each standard and assure that they've been met, or if we think they haven't been met, then we generally, if we think they haven't been met, we take a vote on that, because that would
We should be finished
disapprove it.
tonight.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
I
will
mean,
be,
it's
we
been
will
long
be
enough.
finished. I would hope this would be in about a half hour.
Okay.
So that's,
Okay.
just, that is our procedure. That's due process. If we did anything else on any appeal, it would be, have severe danger of being overturned. So let's go first to the land use code. Just a comment on the description and the purpose of the land use districts. Obviously, the intent should be that the purpose is met, but purpose is generally transcribed in the standards. So, that's just my comment. If anybody thinks it does not meet the standard, when we get to the I think you should relate it when we get to the particular stand. If it doesn't meet the purpose, relate it to the particular standard when we get there. Okay, so in terms of uses, they've proposed restaurants, I should say, restaurant, brewery, event space, outdoor event space, multifamily dwellings. Did I miss anything?
Retail.
Small
Retail.
Small retail,
Small retail.
one of the most
Yes.
important things, and small retail.
The cafe, which again falls under the restaurant use.
All of those are acceptable uses in this district. I would point out to the applicant who intends for this to be residential units, and that the definition of dwelling units excludes what would be considered a short-term rental, or can be read that way. It says intended primarily, it says it does not include motel units, hotel units, boarding houses, recreational vehicles, or other residential units intended primarily for transient occupancy. The rental of a dwelling unit is considered a usual and normal use. So I don't know what you consider transient occupancy, but I would just suggest to the board that transient occupancy is 30 days or more.
Less than 30 days.
Less than that.
Sorry, less than 30 days. Yeah, sorry. that make sense to the board? If it makes sense, that'll be stated in the findings. Which means if you wanted to change that, you'd have to put in a change of use. Okay, on to the next item, which is the the dimensional standards. So open space and buildable area, DVB 1, 2,500 square feet is the minimum lot size. And then you see the shoreland zone, 60,000 for governmental, institutional, commercial, industrial, or principal. Anything on that? Okay. Lot frontage, none. Shore frontage, there is none. Maximum lot coverage, the applicants represented that it's less than the 70% in their calculations. Front setback line, maximum front set line, 6 feet. Angie, just so you know, I go through these, so we don't miss any, but if somebody has a question or an issue to discuss, they bring it up at that time.
Front is Depot Street for the brewery, right?
The maximum the front setback line is Depot Street, because that's the longest, it's a corner lot, that's the longest frontage. Okay. Minimum setback line from common lot line, setback from other neighborhoods, other districts. Shoreland setback, 50 feet in this case. This might be where we discuss the structure, so the rest of the board can pipe in, but my reading of a non-conforming structure indicates that if a structure becomes non-conforming, you can continue to maintain and actually improve that structure. So I would say that a waiver isn't required. That's what's required is not to expand that to be closer to the stream. So it can't become more non-conforming. Questions about that? And that's in the non-conformance section.
Right, yeah, I'm just trying to remember how much gravel I remember seeing there. Can you answer one off-the-wall question? Was any gravel brought in to that area in order to move things for construction of either the Gateway project or the renovation or the replacement of the other structure?
So I don't know that off the top of my head. I know what we had shown on the surveys that were done. And they all showed gravel pathways behind there, and that was before they were working on the Gateway and Potter's Place building. So I'm going with that. I
Going
think
with the
it was
perimeter
there.
survey.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else on the board on that? So if it's when the existing conditions perimeter survey plan is done, if it's noted on that by the site evaluator, then, and it's signed and it's stamped, then we're to consider that something that's there.
Yes.
I mean, can also look at the waiver possibility when we get to it, but seems to me that it's, with what they're doing, it's going to be pretty easy for them to have a waiver. But we can look at it if the board, what's the board's pleasure here? What do you think?
I don't think we need the waiver.
Okay. Now we keep moving. What it says here is just, you can't actually expand a non-conforming structure. And what makes it a non-conforming structure is the fact that the shoreline zone was put into place afterwards. And I think it does talk about pathways being allowed as long as they're not closer than 25 feet. So, all right. Moving on. Think,
Excuse me.
maximum height, 35 feet. Maximum height of principal structure,
Is it 34 feet,
Yeah.
7 inches?
so 35 feet, it's 34.9, I believe.
Yeah.
Ground story elevation height, 0 to 21 inches. Okay, district, everybody okay there? So far? District-specific space and bulk standards, maximum front setback area requirements. This would be on Depot Street. I won't read them all, but there's a percentage that needs to be. Facade. Facade building projections. Street wall. Does the board accept the notion that as a group, that the street wall
I move that
meets
we
the
do.
definition?
I move that we do.
Okay, Mr. Mattson
I'll
moves
second.
that the street wall, as described, meets the definition of a street wall. Mr. Harden seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? 4-1. Garage and parking, this has to do with setbacks and where they have to be located. And it can't be located directly with entrances on Main Street. Sidewalks. Landscaping is not regulated here, but it's regulated in the site plan. That's the end of the district-specific bulk standards. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. All right, on to the site plan. First item, general review criteria. Proposed uses meet the ordinance. It complies with all applicable requirements of this code, which is what we're in the process of doing. It's consistent with the town of Bridgton comprehensive plan. I did, just to get into some discussion here, because I think we're going to have some discussion on here, I did go and look at the comprehensive plan specifically for this district. And it asks for a lively and functional downtown. It asks for a mix of residential. And it does ask that, you know, it fits in with the surrounding area. So if people, and there's other things obviously in the comp plan, but I related it to what the comp plan says about the specific district. So any further comments or discussion on that?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in zoning discussions, it always has been hoped for that Depot Street would be a subsidiary of Main Street for the town of Bridgton, and that the buildings on Depot Street would be characteristic of the Main Street in Bridgton, which I think, you know, the project has met.
Okay.
I agree.
We'll get into more specifics on that. Okay, so that's general. Preservation and enhancement of the landscape. Landscaping plan must be incorporated. I lost count when I got over 300 different plants and trees. So
There's a lot of them.
Any discussion on that? I think just a comment on the landscaping to those who are concerned with the size and scale of the project. The amount of lands, first of all, the building is set back, so it's not right like in your face on Main Street, like you're in New York City or wherever, and you can't see any sun. Second of all, at least my understanding, that plantings really help soften the scale, as has been the case in other projects this board has reviewed, and there's substantial trees and other plantings. So, Ms. Miller?
You're talking about B, preservation.
Yes.
Landscape can also mean not landscaping, but the physical properties of the land. Hills, brooks, streams. And in this case, I think we might need some more definite planning for the bridge and the impact that it would have on the stream.
So you're saying that you want a condition around the bridge that they come back if their finalized plan isn't?
Yes, I think so, because if you consider it just landscaping, I agree with you, but there's also hardscaping, there are all kinds of things that contribute, but my feeling is that the landscape, meaning the hills, the valleys, the streams, and I think that the bridge might need some special consideration. So I would like to have that come back.
But the bridge has already been submitted in the plan, and the applicant stated they weren't going to modify the plan, and stormwater is taken into account that bridge. So I'm not sure, so what are you actually asking for?
I'm asking the span itself. What will its relationship to the bank? Will it cause the bank to be depressed, or will it maintain the bank?
If you'd like, I can talk about the bridge for a
Would
minute.
you go ahead and speak to the bridge for a minute?
So the specs for the bridge, some preliminary design information was in the initial package that we provided the board. I don't recall the section off the top of my head. So the intent with the bridge is that it would span. So we're not looking at starting the span low, but it's going to be relatively close to the top of the bank. I believe, I'd have to check the elevations exactly, but we were actually above the flood elevations in that location. And it would sit on some concrete block abutments. So they'd actually need very little clearing to install those, and they'd be high on the bank in order to avoid disturbing down low around the stream. So it will actually span from sort of almost the top of embankment to top of embankment versus like bottom of the embankment.
But it doesn't have a span on it.
So it doesn't, it's level, it doesn't arc, but.
Mr. Gibbs?
Yes, at each end of the span, will there be accommodation for handicapped, for people that have to use, say, scooters as a way of transportation?
So that, I'm not.
Rather than steps.
Right, I'm not sure that they'll be able to make that work with the bridge. We might be able to if we raise that. But there is sidewalk that technically runs from like the Walgreens lot around.
the long way.
So there would still be ADA access. But that is something, that if we look at it and it's feasible to do that, then.
And there are 88 parking spaces on the other side of the bridge, correct?
On our side, we're providing
Yeah.
the ADA parking. On the Walgreens side, I think when we get down to designing that lot, that'll need to be
So
taken
it
into
only be-
consideration.
Okay,
So,
all right. So the way I understand it, Ken, is it would only be an issue if all the ADA spots are filled up, and then somebody parks in the Walgreens issue.
In the Walgreens.
And at this point, I would make the assumption, since it hasn't been assumed in the application, that means that, somebody is in a wheelchair or something, they would go across the sidewalk that exists on the large bridge that goes over and then go over, or be dropped off, obviously.
Yeah, or come around.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
And when that parking is designed, there's a certain percentage of handicap spaces you have to provide for the number of spaces, so
Okay.
just to clarify.
Onwards, relationship to surroundings. Proposed structures and additions to existing structures must be of compatible scale and size to existing buildings in the vicinity, be of compatible architectural style, features such as simple rectangular shape, gable roof, or other traditional compatible roof, like door-compatible windows, doors, and trim, include an integral element of design of varying roof lines, awnings, and canopies. I won't read the whole things. It must seek to eliminate unadorned or blank walls through various ways, exterior wood, stone, brick, or other material having the same architectural and visual properties, and avoid or minimize disruption of natural features. So there's been a number of comments both from the board and from some of the public about scale. Who on the board wants to say anything about that? Ms. Miller?
Well, I actually wrote that part a long time ago. And I must admit that when I was working on the committee that wrote that, we were not thinking about anything other than traditional town planning of having buildings addressing the street. The way it's written, I must say I was remiss. My forecaster wasn't working then, and I can't find anything in what you read that would be opposed to what has been planned, except I still want to register my objection to the lack of addressing the street with the major buildings of the project. Thank you.
Any other comments on scale? My general comment is, again, the buildings are going to be screened to some degree or softened. They're set back, and except the one on Depot Street, and they're, I don't think they're dwarfing every building around them. Yes, there are some smaller buildings like the pizza place and that, but I think that's typical in a downtown.
Yeah.
And in terms of vicinity, you know, you're not talking about just the immediate buildings around it. You're talking about 500, 1,000 feet away, the vicinity, which is Main Street, really. Any comments? Okay. D, vehicular and pedestrian traffic. E, traffic circulation. Ms. Miller?
You mentioned that the Gibbs Avenue to Depot Street area is a transit area for cars, but that most of those parking spaces would be reserved for apartments. Is there going to be any designation that although this is a transit area to get through the development, there'd be no parking places available in that particular lot?
Yeah, so I think when they sign this, they'll be looking at pointing for parking probably down Depot to the larger parking lot versus behind Maker's Mill. So the intent there is that it will mostly be for the residents and then some of the businesses.
So it's not going to be a general throughway?
So it could be, if somebody drives up Gibbs and then needs to get over there, they could go through, but that wouldn't be the intent for it to be a busy throughway.
At some point, these spaces reserved for residential
Right.
use.
Yeah, or they'd be pointing that, public parking essentially would be down Depot versus down Gibbs.
Thank you.
The throughway was for public safety with
Excuse
the
me,
fire
Ralph?
trucks.
Wait.
Yeah.
I didn't hear what you said. What did you just say, Ro?
I said that throughway was designed for parking and a throughway for public safety for the fire
Right.
trucks.
Correct. Does anybody think we need a condition to have any signage that says something like, no cut through, use Gibbs Avenue to access?
No. I think that would get too confusing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that would.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I would like to see some signs saying these spaces are reserved for residents.
Yes, they said
already said
they
that.
committed to
said
that.
that.
They committed to that.
I could provide a little bit more input on that. So what we're doing too is as we get a residential tenant, some of them only have one car, some of them have two, you know what I mean? So we're waiting too to see what we need as we put the signs up, because we might only have 7 or 8 cars needed for that. We're seeing a lot of younger single people in one car. Or matter of fact, you're probably gonna start seeing some electric bikes more often too, and people getting rid of cars, so. But we're closely monitoring that, but it could free up some more parking if we don't have full occupancy in those units.
I don't mean to imply that the throughway would not be helpful, because I think that would relieve a lot of congestion to continue that.
Okay. F, parking.
I think we covered that.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
we're good on
general
parking,
comment.
really.
It's the downtown, the last thing. I don't think we want to design the town to have big parking lots everywhere.
No, you want people to park and
And
walk.
impose that on every single vendor. You know,
Yep.
and the spec does not, we do not have, it says is it adequate and using a number of uses. That may change in the future, maybe for some districts, but I'd suggest downtown, you don't want to build a lot of parking lots.
Well, the applicant provided an analysis that shows
Correct.
us what parking requirements were being used for uses
Good
in
ad.
other areas of town
Yep.
Yep.
to provide whether or not this would be adequate, and
I've
it
done that.
is.
Surface water drainage. Are you happy over there? Okay. Impervious surfaces. Public utilities. Advertising features, it'll be an externally lit sign, because we do not have, we have what the lighting would be, we don't have a design of the sign. Does the board want to see the design once they design it, which might be a way down the road, that is our option? Or are we going to allow the code enforcement officer to assure it meets the specs?
I think the CEO can do a
I think
wonderful
the
I
job.
CEO
agree.
can do it.
Consensus?
CEO.
Okay. Stay. When they have a sign, you're going to be the permanent. Okay. Special features of the development. Exterior lighting. Emergency vehicle access. Municipal services. I think I would put in the findings that there was, related to the event area, there was descriptions by the chief about how, when events happen, how things would be handled, as well as the applicant in terms of, managing the people in the street. And no one expressed a burden in any of their impact statements. Water quality, groundwater quality, air quality, water supply. We have quite a bit on the record on that. Soil and erosion control. You've got the cut and fill, so you're good. Okay. Sewage disposal, scenic impacts. There are no historic sites within that lot that have been shown. Noise,
What about concerts?
so I think we might, it does ask in the submission for the applicant to state hours of operation. And I think they generally talked about the retail shops. haven't really talked about the event space, but what has been talked about is it would mimic Music on Main. And Mr. McGyver, can you just tell me what the hours are for Music on Main?
Yeah, so with Music on Main, we've had hundreds and hundreds of artists, local younger kids, so asking to have some sort of a platform to play at. So this is also designed to maybe have a local guitar guy playing during the day while people are shopping. So it's not just going to be designated for Music on Main site. We're not even sure what we're going to do yet with Music on Main, really. Whether we move it over here, keep it there, we're not sure. Fully, it was the intent to move it over here, but the intent also is to have more frequent. People have been saying it would be nice to have some more during the summer, weekends, and some smaller bands to be able to play. And so that's kind of what our goal is there, is to.
And but,
Yeah.
so what hours would that operate? Sounds like it could
That's a good
operate
question.
any time during the day.
Yeah, I
But
think
what
if-
about evening, which is, I think, where the question's coming from?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm sure between, the brew pub's probably going to be orchestrating some of this too, to use the stage during, their business hours or whatever. But I think if we can leave it open to a certain extent, then if it does become a problem at all, we can always address it then. I mean,
Well, there's a sound limitation after 8 PM.
Yeah.
And don't put yourself in a box that you can't get out of.
Right, yeah.
So,
I think what has been consistent with other local bars, and what do they have for music?
Well, they generally don't have outdoor music,
they
most
don't.
of them, but we have
Yeah,
had one recently,
We've got
and,
Sunset Lounge is outdoor,
right,
Right.
and
Gastro, Queen's Head.
they've
Queen's
buffered
Head.
the sound, and of course, they have neighbors right across the stream. This is a slightly different, you're gonna have people in apartments that are signing up for what they're getting.
right.
Can we,
It sounds like well, we probably should put a time.
can we ask, once it's done, that he comes back and develop a plan, what his music or what the entertainment's gonna be, and come back and request?
Yeah, I think there should be some definite.
I think it'd be easier, because you don't know exactly what you wanna do now.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, weekends, right?
Yeah,
Are gonna be a
there's
little
some
bit
obvious
later,
stuff, but-
and then during the week is gonna be a
And things
little bit.
Yeah,
later.
I think, well, okay, but we have to approve this now, so if we're
Okay.
gonna set a condition.
So what was the
I don't know
other-
that we can set normally what we would have is what the operating hours would be. That's what is asked for,
What are the other?
and then what the noise would be.
So they
Is
have
that-
a special amusement permit that they'll have to apply for from the town, that the select board has to apply for. What has been happening locally right here has been on 11.
11, okay. So I think,
We
I
can go with
suggest
that.
to the board that we set 11 PM as a time when music stops.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
So it'd be from 7 AM to 11?
that's fine by me.
No, I'm looking at our
Miss-
ordinance,
I mean, this is, our ordinance does ask for what the operating hours are.
specific times.
7 to 11.
7 to 11.
Yep.
Ms. Miller, then Mr. Peabody.
Oh, I'll bow to.
Mr. Peabody.
Bob Peabody, Town Manager, 16 North High Street. They do come in front of the board for permission for outside entertainment, and I'm not sure what authority the planning board has to override the select board's authority to grant that approval.
We're
So,
not,
and it's,
we're not granting it.
Right,
We're not
what-
granting it. We
You
are
you're
doing it
limiting- You're setting a,
with the, setting, according to the ordinance, when the hours can be.
okay, I just want to make sure, because the select board vote up and down on these outside
I know that.
Yeah,
entertainment
oh,
things.
Yeah, so one of the things that's asked for in the application submission requirements is hours of operation and then proof that there won't be a noise issue. So we have to take it that far.
Then
Now-
I suggest you do the 11 o'clock, because that's what the board has done for every other business, and that's inside and outside.
Yeah. And
Just my suggestion.
That's
Okay.
for entertainment, right? That makes sense if that they have to close by 11, it's just their entertainment.
Right, no,
That's
we'll
just
write
saying
it, we'll
if
write it,
there's an
we'll write it
event.
the way it needs to be written. They can quietly have beers until whatever. Ms. Miller?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking of the decibel level limits that are imposed in our ordinance. And I guess we have to bow to the good judgment of the select board in their being able to determine a quiet little jazz trio from the Benny Goodman Orchestra or any of those other big bands of the past, Glenn Miller, who died during the war. But in other words, the noise level depends on the type of entertainment that's going to be offered. So I think we have to leave that to the people who deal with those specific issues.
Okay, so there's a proposal for a condition of music's allowed from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., indoor and outdoor. So when we get there, that's what I'm hearing from the board. It does in your,
It does have a decibel level.
it does have, well, never mind. Let me just, I'm gonna stop. I think we're good.
I got a side comment.
No, it's actually 70 is what we're talking about.
Oh,
After 8 p.m. 55.
yeah.
Through Bridgton's strong arts and culture now, right?
Right?
I'd like to make a statement, Bridgton, right, is now officially a music town. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah, well, so,
Acoustic or light?
so,
It's not an easy
to
issue.
move on from this, is the board comfortable with 7 to 11 as operating hours?
Yes.
And obviously, the decibel level might be higher than 55 in that section of town.
7 a.m. to 11.
Yeah, 7 a.m. is when noise is allowed, 70 decibels. I'm talking at like probably 65 right now.
They're gonna need a permit for every event that they do,
Does
so.
anybody feel this needs to be waived based on the fact that it's outdoor music?
I think,
I think that's going to be up to the select board.
It's like,
yeah, I say we put the 11 PM, 7 AM to 11 PM, and then the select board is gonna approve or deny it, you know. If they come and say, we're gonna do 17 shows in a row, and it's gonna be an annoyance to the town, that's their decision. You know?
Yeah,
And I mean, somebody like Justin, he's gonna have to know
right.
at least 2 months in advance or a month in advance of what's gonna
Yeah,
be happening
our decision
down there.
is, does it meet the standard,
Yeah.
which goes to
It does.
55. So that's why I'm mentioning a waiver, because
I
if
was
we
just-
allow a waiver, we're not violating the standard. If we basically say a waiver makes sense because of the nature of what's being done and where it's being done.
Yeah, I would say do a
I
waiver
would
for the
suggest we do a
55
waiver
dB.
from 7 to 11.
Okay. Ms. Miller?
I think a waiver isn't really necessary because we're not talking about sustained noise. We're talking about
Yes, you
special
are.
events that are, well, sustained over 2 hours or over
Sustained
whatever.
over 4 hours
Well,
in the downtown from up to 11
It could be
o'clock. And the
10
standard
hours.
says you can't be over 55 after 8 PM. So,
right, but I think that that's up to the permitting it process of the,
it's a standard.
well, then we've
So I
never
move-
imposed that standard before, have we?
I move we grant a waiver.
We've never had that situation.
Move we grant a
Mr.
waiver.
Madsen,
Waiver for operating hours of 7 to 11 p.m.
second by Mr. Madsen. Did you catch that, Laura Lee?
Yeah, what's the waiver?
The waiver is from 7 to
For
11
the noise to be allowed from 7 to 11 p.m.
to exceed 55.
Do we see, is there an upper
By
limit?
how much?
It's actually 70, Deb.
So, excuse me, to exceed
Seven.
70 after 8, well, after 8, no, it's 8 PM, it's supposed to be 55 to 7 AM.
But I'm just saying, from 7 to 8 p.m., it can be 70, can exceed 70.
And from 8 PM to 7, 8 PM to 11, it can exceed 55.
Yeah.
But what's
And I
the-
think it's up to the select board after that. We're giving a waiver based on the type of music
We're
it
giving a
is.
waiver, they can do music. The question,
Right.
they can use the facility for music. How loud it is and what it looks like is up to the select board and their permit.
I'm 90.
Okay, so just, Ms. Miller asked a decent question. I don't suggest on the waiver we put a top end, but Mr. Harden here, who has experience as a DJ, says typically DJ music, which, you know, is pretty loud, is around 90 decibels. I think the problem with putting an upper decibel limit is that then somebody's got to go measure it every time. To me, the waiver is just, you can exceed it, and
Between
if it
those
becomes
hours.
unreasonable, then they're going to be before the select board.
Oh, okay.
We good?
Yep.
Good.
Location and floodplain?
There was a motion, Madam Chair, we need to do a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Yeah. We did a motion and a second.
My second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. 5-0. Location and floodplain? Adequate technical and financial capacity? Special regulations. It's not an institutional use, not an industrial use, not residential childcare, and there's no specific outdoor storage of materials. So I'd accept a motion to approve, tentatively approve the project
pull it up.
as presented.
I'll move.
We'll let Dan read
I'll
it,
second.
and
Yeah.
you can move it.
No
Second.
conditions, correct, or do we have any?
We have a
conditions?
condition
We do,
on,
okay.
we have a waiver on, we have one waiver.
Yep.
I don't think we had a condition. Did we have a condition, Mr. Madsen? I don't remember a condition.
Oh, just a waiver, the condition was the decibels.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so I move to tentatively approve the project as presented and submitted conditional upon the waiver, but withhold final judgment pending review of the findings of fact and conclusions of law.
And I'll second that.
Okay, first by Mr. Madsen to approve, tentatively approved, second by Ms. Cook. Discussion?
Just a quick question. It'll probably be a while before the DEP approval comes in. We need to make sure
We
that
do
that's
need to
added in.
condition that, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So could you amend your motion
Yep.
to also add the DEP condition?
Yeah. So I motion to tentatively approve the project as presented, submitted conditional upon the waiver for the noise and the DEP approval, but withhold final judgment pending review of findings and facts and conclusions of law.
I'll second it.
Second, okay. Any more discussion? Just for the applicant, there are standard conditions. If the use is changed, if this changes, if that changes, you're back here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Not that I want to make this and prolong this, but didn't we skip over the shoreland? Or do we not need to?
I don't think we.
I couldn't remember with that, if we have to go through that ordinance or not.
I
just don't want something
I
to
think,
get hung up.
let's go back one real quick.
It's
It's a use.
50 feet.
One
It's
thing
not
we
in
did
it.
miss, thank you, is the scheduled uses in the shoreline zone, so
nothing
let's
in
hold
it.
off voting.
Just the
But,
pavement.
piece of paper. There's nothing in it.
I just wanted to make sure, I just
saying
don't
there's
want
nothing,
something to
it's
get
just a piece
hung
of
up.
paper.
well, there is, there's a use chart that's separate, and multifamily dwellings are allowed, as well as,
That isn't in it.
no, there's a good point by Dan. Commercial uses are allowed. Which is the commercial. Docks, bridges, and other structures are allowed. Permanent ones approved by us, which we're doing in this application.
Oh, actually, the bridge is in it.
And
Yeah, excuse me, do you have to look at GD2?
I am looking at GD2.
The bridge is in it. Yeah.
Parking areas, roads, and driveways are allowed.
Yeah, docks, bridges, and other structures extending over below the normal high water line or within a wetland permanent goes to the planning board, and that was part of the, what am I missing?
Are there any sign restrictions? There are special size sign restrictions for shoreland.
Didn't we
Like,
say
I don't
Brenda
think
was
the
gonna
signs
determine
they're
that?
anticipating are in the shoreland zone, so.
I think we pointed that out, we've discussed that, it's a good point, I'm looking for signs. This is only in the RP and SP district, the sign requirements. So otherwise, it's the regular sign requirements. Then we have stormwater runoff, septic waste disposal, essential services, roads and driveways. I mean, they're all existing, except for the,
Yeah, do we have to include that they meet the conditions for lot coverage in GD2?
I will, we went over, that was in the dimensional standards.
Yes.
What about Q, exceptions for clearing and vegetation removal requirements? They were going to be cleaning up some of the vegetation, invasive vegetation against, around the stream. Is that going to?
They didn't request any special clearing within the area.
Yeah, so there's no, like larger trees
Large
that are
stand,
being
no real
removed.
large
It would
scale
be,
removal.
there's some, there's like vines
They're
growing
gonna weed
amongst
it.
them. They're gonna
Right.
weed that out a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the exceptions include things like diseased trees and
Right.
invasives. So what I normally do in this section of the findings is, this is permitted by the CEO, because obviously they, they may come and find something has to go back to the
Right.
CEO. So it's, in this section, they basically have to just follow the rules, and that's what it'll say in the findings.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention it
No,
because
that's-
I knew that that's what they had
No,
planned
you
to do.
guys got me. I skipped over it, and I shouldn't have. So
there.
now we got it. We discussed water quality, we discussed soils. Photographic record, I think you've turned that in. And there's no archaeological sites.
Maybe that garage will do, will
So I don't-
have some sort of archaeology.
They'll find out.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, so now, having done that quickly, I think we can just vote on the motion.
Yep.
All in favor, please raise your hand.
Personal approval vote.
You can have my vote.
Congratulations, you are tentatively approved. It's, this isn't gonna be easy to write up, so, but Laura, Lee, and I will do our best to have the findings written up so they can be approved at our October meeting.
All right, thank you all very much.
Yep,
Good luck, it's a great investment in the town. of
Good job.
Yeah, thank-
Absolutely,
Thank
good
you to
job.
the board. You guys did a great job and very thorough and comprehensive, and I think you represented the town very well. Thank you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate your responsiveness.
Yes.
Okay,
Let's make
All right.
a motion for a 5-minute break.
all right, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess.
I'm sorry, Rob.
And then get to our
I'm
last
gonna learn
item.
to go backwards and not around with these damn.
7:37, please come back. Next on the agenda, Highland Lake Resort. This is for an expansion of the resort. North High Street, map 47, lot 20-20. We called for a public hearing, so I move that we open the public hearing. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Manson. It's okay, there's no public in here, so you're gonna be first anyway. Maybe one public, but you get to go first regardless. All in favor, please raise your hand. 5-0. Okay, so the hearing is open, and could you please state your name, and I assume you're representing the applicant, and just give us a brief overview of what you've provided since the last meeting?
Will do. My name is Travis Netto. I'm with Platts Associates.
Just a brief overview of the project, in other words. So.
Yep. And so the project briefly consists of, well, the existing building has 23 hotel units, 22 hotel units that are seasonal, and then one that's a more longer-term, short-term rental, but it's open longer. And the project proposes adding 6 more units. 4 of those would be 1-bedroom units and 2 would be 2-bedroom units. And then the project also proposes a event space, outdoor event space that is about 830 square feet. The additional footprint of the project, or I guess I should say the footprint of the project is on an existing building. It's basically putting a second and third floor on existing development. That area is around 3,170 square feet, and the total proposed development, including an expanded event space that's 830 square feet, the total would be 6,250 square feet, and some of these areas were part of the information request. Additionally, we prepared or provided a survey that describes the property bounds and locations of some of the existing buildings and the proposed area that's now currently existing. And then also, we made some adjustments describing some additional landscape areas, specifically along this access drive that benefits the neighboring properties. There's no easement, and clarification was made that there's no easement to this road benefiting this property. So we're adding new trees to soften that fence line buffer as well along that line. And the idea is to prevent traffic from exiting the sort of back of the hotel and getting over there. And service vehicles, there'll be no access there. One of the comments that was brought up. We also described the landscaping, so there's going to be bushes and landscaping integrated at the tail edge of the parking areas to sort of screen those from the lakeside. Typically, parking is screened from the street side, but in this case, we're paying special attention for both sides of the project to screen those parking areas as much as possible. The added parking area is shown in this darker shade here. So there's a section here that's an expansion of an existing paved area, and then expansion here that's also part of an expanded existing paved area. There'll be a couple more sidewalks as well to get to this proposed canopy structure and then to the ADA units of the existing hotel. So the additional topography information was brought in from USGS, and a soils engineer was engaged, Travis Letelier of Civil X Engineering, provided a soil analysis and his BMP and EC environmental control plan, and that was requested for a number of for reasons. And then we also provided additional elevations detailing the new construction. So as you can see from that access road to the north, there's not really a lot of evident construction other than the deck expansion. Facing the lake, you can see there's 2 stories of new construction sitting on the existing footprint there. The design of this is such that this will be functionally a separate building from the existing building there. And the line of that is roughly where the new construction is, separating the expanded event space, which is right here, small storage space above that, and this entry system, the circulation system for the hotel units is separate. So the line is right there for the building separation. And then up on North High, we have a elevation that's basically in keeping with what is there today. Pitched roofs, clapboard siding, entries presented at each of the units on the ground floor level. Some area of signage available there between those entry units in the center. The access to the upper upper units through an internal stair is here, and then there would be an external stair that brings you around on the outside. And then the expanded event space can be entered through their existing entry or a new entry door that's been here. This is designed more for service entrance. so that would be a separate entry point than customers. This is a look at the canopy. I'll admit it's a little technical and not so beautiful, so I had them generate a 3D rendering that shows the character a little more beautifully, I think, or is at least a little easier to assimilate. And so the idea is that it's an open frame structure. It would have pier supports to prevent uplift, and but a nice open look to the frame to have a very sort of light, elegant touch to it. It would obey all the height restrictions and setback requirements, and that's that location proposed. And the idea was that it would house events and offer a place of refuge for inclement weather. It kind of spoils a lot of events, and so this would provide an opportunity for those bridesmaids and grooms to not be bawling when the rain comes. So, and then additionally, this may have been, I don't think this was part of the initial package, may have been, but this was offered to indicate the elevation and the compliance with the 35-foot height limitation, which is on the downhill slope of the site. It's not an average of the existing grades. It's on the downhill slope, and that's pre-development. And we're matching where existing grades there, existing connections into the building, so none of that's going to be adjusted as part of this project. They'll basically just dig holes for the footings on the piers and then put them in and then come back to grade and match up. And we have 3 inches to spare, it looks like. So as with most things, you're kind of up to the limit. That's why there's limits, is to make sure that people stay within them. And it is tough to get, 3 and what's almost a half-story look in that 35 feet. The hotel units are 8-foot ceilings, and the floor system is existing. There used to be a hotel, there used to be a second story, doing exactly what we're proposing here. It burned down, they rebuilt the building, and underneath that sort of angled slope roof that's there today is actually a floor system that's been built there, and a roof sort of tossed up on top of it. So the plumbing was already split, and there's a riser heading up there with a cap on it, waiting for new development that I guess never happened at the time, or maybe was forecasted for the future, and here we are. So, so that's all existing, and we sort of brought back to life and then expanded upon with our new development here. And I wanted to clarify a couple things. One was that landscaping. We had one comment at our previous meeting, and it was from an abutter on the access drive. They wanted to make sure that there wasn't any access there that continues. It's my understanding there's some sort of hopscotch landscape buffer of some kind, but this project now proposes a fence line, true privacy fence with the trees to sort of help soften that line of control. There is existing fencing on the south side, trees and landscaping along both lot lines on either side. And there's a lot of scattered landscape points of interest throughout the site. There's a rock walk garden. There's a gnome village around the fence to the right, and a lot of places for contemplation, meditation, that sort of thing. I also wanted to, unfortunately, the septic information wasn't fantastic, and I didn't offer a very good clarifying statement. So what we had done is taken a look. Carla had water meters placed on the hotel so that we could measure the rate of actual water use and gauge or identify how that relates to the designed use, because septic systems are always brought in, and leach fields are brought in on a proposed or a design value. And so we wanted to see what was being used and what the current rate of use was. And so I guess I submitted a water bill style water usage identification, but that's not the best way to do it. I do have, on a daily basis, the water usage that we use to do our calculations. And so the design value for a hotel is 100 gallons per day per unit. And that's from the USDA Water Systems Handbook, the Water Systems Council. That's the design value. And the current leach field there has a capacity of 1,200 gallons a day. And that was part of the direct causation of, how that load of 100 per unit. So when we took a look at the actual usage on a daily basis, for all the hotel units, all 22 of them, it's 117 gallons per day. So when you divide that out, we're barely at 5.1 gallons per day actual versus the 100 per unit design rate. And then using the city's or the town's water usage for the business uses that are in the building, the event center, the common spaces, the apartment that's there, and the Nectar's business. That came to 115 gallon per day average. So it's almost a perfect balance between what the hotel was using versus what the events were using in that building. Combining the two, we're not at even 10% or 20% of the value of the existing leach field system. The leach field that I submitted is the existing system that has a performance request of at least an 1,800 gallon septic tank. So that's what we're proposing is an additional septic tank to elevate the distribution to that leach field to the design value that was indicated. But again, the actual values that we're finding with our water usage tables aren't coming. They're roughly 10% of the design value. So, or 5% actually, 5.1 versus 100. So you can't just jump on board with only actual usage, but you also can't, you can't discredit the design value. So we were looking at, even if we came to some sort of midpoint consideration, sort of a average of the two sort of ends, the existing leach field is still over double what it would need for a capacity. So our proposal is to retain the existing septic system and retain the existing leach field, which was the design provided, and add a septic tank to satisfy the requirement of that leach field, and have that serve the additional 6 units.
Have you had an engineer do a design for you or show what would be required to meet your actual, what you've got here?
What we have is the Civil X is doing soils, erosion control, and helping with this meta-analysis of the water usage and how it relates to the septic, but they're not a septic designer. So we are using this evaluation as our basis for retaining the existing system.
I think if you're installing a septic tank, we're going to have
an engineer.
We're going to have details.
Oh,
on
absolutely.
that.
So the process is,
And probably going to have to be by somebody that's licensed to draw that.
Right.
The code enforcement officers shaking their heads, so.
right, so the process is that we would have that leach field designed based on an approved project with a certain number of units, and then that goes to 2 places. One at the state level, I think it's DHS.
State
And then as part of that, there's a requirement for the local plumbing inspector's approval as well. And we'd be happy to carry those.
I mean, you would have to, based upon the use of the property, you're going to have design flows based upon what's on the property, which would have to be met by the system that you're gonna have or have to be installed. It's gonna have to be certified by an engineer. The new canopy, is that gonna be used for events?
I would expect so, yes.
So you've got.
So
new-
Ralph, can I stop you for a minute?
Yep.
Can we, let him get through his whole spiel, and then there are a few people from the public here. I just want to make sure we capture them first before we go
Okay,
to the rest
because
of
it's
us.
almost 8 o'clock too.
Yeah, we might go
Running
a
late.
little over.
So just a couple other items I wanted to clarify as well was that there was a latent or sort of leftover reference to a solar array. The solar is not part of the project right now, and that would be permitted separately if that concept moves forward at all.
Let me look at the use chart. Ms. Dave probably knows this off the top of her head, and suspect why. I believe if it's accessory solar, that the CEO can permit it. Is that correct, Brenda?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Accessory solar can be permitted by the CEO.
Yes, rooftop.
Yeah.
So
That,
I've already been talking with the solar company on this. They've already given me a permit, but I told them I can't permit it because the building isn't approved yet. So they're gonna put it on top of that, but yes, it's permitted by myself.
okay, yeah, so it falls under solar energy system accessory, and yeah, it's a permit from the
Yeah.
CEO.
So I told them I just was waiting for this approval before I could approve
Okay,
any solar, because there's no building there to
so,
approve.
so your plan is fine?
Yes, I just want to make sure that we're not proposing a solar system as part of this approval process today.
Okay. All right, so now we'll go to the public. Are there any members of the public in the room that would like to speak? Nope. Is there anybody on the Zoom that would like to speak? I see one person on the Zoom. I don't know if they wish to speak.
They raised their hand.
They have the hand up.
Yep.
So Ms. Devine, could you just state your name for the record and your address, and then any comments? You're going to be unmuted momentarily.
He is already.
Oh, maybe he's gone.
Okay, Ms. Devine, are you there?
Miss or Mister.
Oh, hand is down. Okay, I'm going to take it, because the hand is down, that Ms. Devine doesn't wish to speak. Okay, so, now the hand's back up.
Back up.
See if she can send a chat if maybe her mic's not working.
Yeah, you need to, we can't hear anything, so you need to unmute yourself.
He is unmuted, it says. He's muted now.
I see the person. I think they're talking.
I just want to state, we've been having issues all night with this, so if he disappears for a second, tell him to hold on 1 second.
Okay.
I can bring it back up if we can get him on.
He's on.
And we don't need this
He's not
center mic to
muted.
be on?
He's not muted.
The center mic, I think, is on.
Huh?
The center mic's on.
If somebody talks, we're all going to duck.
So I'm not sure what's going on. It looks like they're tapping the screen. Yeah, Mr. Devine, we'll go to you as soon as you can get mute off or get your sound on. In the meantime, I think we'll go to the board. But we'll make sure you get your comments in. All I see is a hand trying to do something. Okay. So, questions from the board on the evidence?
Well, I was asking about the canopy. So potentially there could be 2 events going on this property at the same time.
He's asking if he can send it via chat because he's having trouble. I know you
Let's
typically-
allow it via chat.
Okay.
Is that okay with the board? We normally don't
Yeah, I
do
mean,
that.
that's recorded anyway.
I'm Bobby Arsenault, the general manager of Highland Lake Resort. It is unlikely that two events would happen at the same time.
But it's possible.
But it's possible, absolutely.
Okay.
Is Nectar going to stay there? Yeah.
As far as we know, we have a lease with them through at least the rest of this year.
Okay.
Kathy, I'm sorry, Ralph.
I'm
You're
sorry,
not done.
there's a boat ramp on the property, correct?
Correct.
Where are the trailers parked for the boat ramp?
They park down below, it depends on how much rain we have.
You have to go to the mic, otherwise nobody at TV land
It
can
depends
hear
on
you.
how much rain we have. They typically park down below next to the boat ramp or up above, which would now be in front of the new event space, the pavilion.
But you're not going to be like selling spots for people to come use your boat? That's
No.
for the hotel, right?
No, the boat launch is only for hotel guests.
Okay.
Do you have 2 docks or 1 dock on your property?
We have 2 T-docks, one of which we use for boats, one of which we use for primarily swimming.
Has that parking lot ever been used before as a parking lot? Or you're proposing a parking lot on the lawn?
No,
That's never been used as such.
correct.
But you said that space is relatively flat, is that correct?
Correct.
And he said he was going to add on to the existing pavement for that. So there's already
Correct.
existing.
There's 1 lane of pavement,
Okay.
and then it's
I'm
gravel.
talking about this piece here. You have this piece, this parking here.
That is not, that's.
There's nothing there, that's all will be grass parking for,
Correct.
so that's not an impervious surface.
Correct.
But would you have vehicles parked there like the majority of the time? Because then you sort of create one.
No, the idea, as explained to me, was when there's events, that, on occasion, there's an event that needs more parking than the allocated field. So that is the area that's outside of the shoreline zone and is level and flat and would be maintained as impervious. The idea is to try to balance the maximum required parking with the sort of deleterious effects of pavement. And so you don't want your pavement to match the 1-day or 2-day maximum capacity. You would rather have that be right-sized for, your average daily value plus some surplus for events. And so that's what we're proposing here. The event center itself is proposed to be a subdividable space. So you could have smaller events going on at the same time or one larger event on occasion. So it was an effort to reduce the loading that would occur if we had made that pavement. So, the discrepancy between grass, the type of grass we have with the type of soils we have, the phosphorus gain is 0.21 for the grassy areas and it's 1.5 as a value for the paved areas. So, the less we have in the 1.5, the better for the project. And we're trying to stay below our phosphorus budget for the job, and due to the very small 6,000 square foot-ish area that we're proposing for additional impervious, we're trying to skate below that level of our phosphorus budget. So that was a key piece in providing the parking that could be on occasion a nuisance if there isn't an overflow lot available. And if we allocate the space and make provisions for wayfinding signage, vehicular screening, headlight screening, and that sort of thing, sort of be proactive about it versus reactive to the negative effects of large crowds. That's sort of the purpose of that. Not that we expect to be used on a daily basis.
Okay. Kathy, how about you?
Yes, I didn't actually see any phosphate.
Yeah, I'll
Phosphorus
second
counts.
Kathy. I didn't see any phosphoric.
I don't
export
think he
calculations.
provided his calculations. I've done my own, but I think in his memo, he made a statement on phosphorus.
Well, he said, he made a statement on stormwater.
He made a statement he didn't expect a
Yeah.
significant change, but we don't have any baseline to look at it with, so I think,
Right. This property has had a number of building permits over the past 20 years. And as far as we can tell, there's never been a stormwater study done, probably because it predates stormwater, but we need a pre and post,
Okay.
just to get some idea what's going on here.
yeah, so if it was approved prior without, so Ms. Day, do we have any records of any stormwater approvals for this site?
I would have to look. We did get an email from Kathy, but I didn't have time to get to it today.
Okay.
So we can definitely look to see if we have anything on file, because I'm sure, well, I mean, the permits have been minimal that's been there. It's been like docks and, I mean, they have done replacement docks and stuff like that. I do know, so they wouldn't have had it for that.
Yeah, it's like the original structures is the,
Yeah, so I can look back in the old
There was
planning
a
board file and see
fire.
if there's anything there. What's that?
There was a fire,
Yeah.
so
Oh, I
they
don't know
made a
what year
building
that
permit
was.
after the fire.
yeah, you're just gonna have to, if you could do that, I think that'd be helpful, but maybe a suggestion, unless you find phosphorus export calculations to the applicant, would be to come back with the phosphorus export calculations. But I'm thinking, unless you find them in the historical record, and Kathy, maybe you can correct me on this, I'm thinking it should be for the entire site. Now, you're adding on a section, but without knowing what the current export is, it's
Right.
difficult to know where, the additive effect.
Absolutely.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, and that's what we did, and I think what he found is that we didn't meet the budget levels for new construction for Highland Lake, so he didn't provide the numbers, like, you passed the test, but you'd like to see them.
Yeah, we need to see it, yeah. Yeah, we ask for that on anything that's in the lakeside neighborhood,
Yeah,
and often even further away than that.
yeah, I'm surprised there's a line, what is it, 98 or 89? It's like anything before that doesn't have to meet these new standards.
I'm not sure.
But we can provide that information, and if there is a line in the sand for a discounted allotment, I can show that line where that is.
Yeah, the question becomes, there's a certain level of export already occurring, and we don't know what that is.
Right, I could tell you what I think it is. It's roughly 2.74 pounds per year. The delta that we're requesting is roughly 0.17 pounds per year, the difference between taking the grass that's in service
Yeah,
today and turning it
so
into.
that's great that you've calculated
Yeah,
that.
no,
You
we'll
may
show-
not
we'll
be
show all
the
this stuff.
person that's the official
Yeah. No,
engineer to do it, but.
Wasn't me, but-
But those are the calculations we want to see.
Yep.
The 2.74 and the additive, or
And it's-
whatever it was.
It's a massive calculation, so
It's okay,
I'm simplifying it down to
We see them
what
all
an
the time.
architect can understand.
Some of us actually can figure them out. Some of us can't. And Brenda, you'll get the original stormwater if you can?
I'll see if we have it, yep.
If it was required at the time.
Yep, I can look
And
in
any
the
of
file. What year did you say it was?
The fire?
Yeah.
88, I think.
I will definitely check though. And we also have a question.
Okay.
Mr. Devine, I don't know when you want that, but.
Why don't we do it right now?
There's some technical, I'm not really sure what it says completely. I would like clarification on the northern border. The petitioner mentioned a new tree line. I would like to make sure this is arbor or similar to maintain a year-round border. Also, I would like to petition for a privacy fence akin to the southern border. And his name is Dan Devine, and he lives at 17 Crosby Lane.
It shows on the drawing where his land is.
Yeah, that might be like arborvitae, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Not seeing the term, but So we are proposing a full privacy fence, 7 feet tall, and softening that with landscaping in the form of trees
Okay.
along that.
So that's in the plan.
Correct, it's on
That's in
the
the plan.
new plan. Admittedly, it's noted and bubbled, but it's hard to perceive necessarily the extent of it. There is a dimension on it to describe the length, but the idea is that it extends the length of that side and terminates at some existing tree line elements that forms a natural buffer in that zone.
Okay. So as I recall, the issue was they don't want, yeah, not only they not want people driving over and using their road, they want the privacy. Okay. So there'll be a privacy fence and plantings. Right.
Can I ask a clarifying question too?
Go right ahead, Ms. Day.
I don't have to, I can wait if you want. On the leach field, are you looking to use the current leach field and just put the tank in according to water records?
Correct.
Okay, I want to clarify on that because, just a suggestion, we have a couple others that do that as well. And what we generally require on that is every quarter that the water records get submitted to my office for the file, and we kind of keep an eye on it to make sure if, indeed they are not going over any numbers that they shouldn't be. We're doing that for the golf course right now, and there's a couple others that we do that. We've been doing it for years, and they just submit quarterly their water records, or, every 6 months, or whatever you want to decide to do it on.
That seems reasonable.
Just to mention that.
And they still would need to get the septic
We still need to
the
have.
septic design done as
Design,
per,
For the tank.
for the tank and.
With the new, including the new event space, which is the canopy and the addition.
They're not adding a septic tank, septic leach field. That's what, this is why I'm questioning, this is why I'm
I know
clarifying.
that,
Yeah,
Brenda. I'm just saying, want to make sure that the property can handle the proposal.
right, and that's why we request those water records.
Yeah.
Because I'd be able to see if they're going over the usage that they are saying. If the events get so much and the water records go through the roof, obviously, we're gonna have to redo something.
Both
expand.
property, the piece of property is a beautiful piece of property.
It is. She's done a great job with the landscaping.
They have.
Okay, so we need an engineer, I'm gonna go look at our original note that we asked for was septic plans and evidence as in section V5B.
It's a big canopy.
So V5B I. It's not proposed to be served by public sewer and on-site soils investigation by a licensed site evaluator or engineer. The report must contain types of soil, location of test pits, which I don't think we have in this case, design of the subsurface water wastewater disposal system for the proposed development. If an engineered subsurface wastewater disposal system is proposed to serve the development, approval such system design from DHHS must be submitted. So Brenda, what do we need? We need something, we need an engineering, we need an approval
For the tank.
for the
And
tank
then I would.
by a licensed engineer.
Yep,
Right.
and I would require that they submit, when we go to deliberations, if you get that, when we get that far.
Yep.
That they submit water records, whatever your liking is on that. It could be quarterly,
Right. It's,
quarterly in the summer, maybe, might not be that busy in the winter, I don't know.
we'll
You
figure
guys
it out
decide.
when we get that far. Ralph, does that satisfy you?
Yeah, I'm just, this is for the tank based upon usage of the canopy.
A certain amount.
And the new space used for event purposes.
Okay.
And the new hotel units.
Kathy, did you have anything else?
Yes, in the engineer's letter, he indicated that the addition of all of these items, the new paving, the canopy, would bring the total impervious coverage to 30.3%, which is admittedly slightly over the Lakeside neighborhood maximum of 30%. Just trying to
that?
verify that, because he was also under the impression that the canopy could be put up and removed, and that looks more.
Right, we're gonna have a permanent canopy as is currently allocated. When we did our calculations, we figured an asphalt type solid impervious system there. So whether there was a roof or not, we were still calculating the 2,400 square feet as part of our additional impervious. So I'll take a look at the engineer's letter and verify his calculations.
Yeah, because I think if you can't demonstrate 30%, that's a dimensional standard, and we can't grant a waiver or a variance for a dimensional standard.
No, of course not.
And you would be required to go to the appeals board, so the best thing to do is, and then it has to be hardship or practically, the best
Yep.
thing to do is
Get
to
rid of a
demonstrate
parking
30%.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Gibbs?
Did you mention that some of the residents bring their own boats?
Some of the hotel guests do, yes.
And you're aware that the state has gotten a lot more strict in milfoil and washing of boats that are coming from the outside? Do you have facility for that on your property?
We have signage and a hose that they're able to wash off with as well, yes.
Okay.
Right, there's new legislation that they have to empty tanks before they put it in the water.
Yeah.
That's new.
Yeah, so there are new regulations, a little stricter.
Perfect. With all the rain, we've been sending them to the town launch anyways.
They go,
Smart.
yeah, that's right. If they go to the town launch, they'll meet those
Yes,
Correct.
right.
people with their clipboards.
We have another question for Mr. Devon.
Okay.
How many incremental events are anticipated in economic plan? Noise not only impacts on butters, but the lake carries on across the lake. Please factor that into your consideration.
Our events are minimal. Where we've been operating for 70 years, we have a lot of repeat guests. So during our high season, when we get most wedding requests in July and August, we actually turn them down, and we only do events outside of those 2 months. The anticipated events would be minimal. We are hoping to do more. That's why we're elevating it from 60 people inside to 100 and doing the outdoor space, but it is minimal compared to what, the increase there is minimal as to what we're looking for.
Do you have bands?
No.
A wedding band, if there's a wedding?
I mean, we also make sure everything's done by 8.
Done by 8, did you say?
Correct.
Oh.
Oh, done by 8?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's important. So, just to,
These are outdoor events by 8 or all events?
All events. Because our indoor space has the one room below it. So we've always had guest impact.
so it might be helpful, not right here, but maybe because you're going to be coming back with the other information, just to, and if this is in the application, I apologize, I think some of it is, just to let us know, on average, how many events do you do now and over the various seasons, if you have a record of that or some backtracking for that, and then what you would hope would be the result of this improvement. I think then the board can say, okay, and to the abutter's point, you got a certain increment. The fact that you're not going beyond 8 p.m. and you obviously have quite a bit of setback area from abutters, but would be taken into consideration. But I would suggest that for the next meeting. The other comment I would make is to look closely the section on non-conforming uses, which is, and particularly the expansion of non-conforming use not within the shoreland zone, but outside of the shoreland zone, because you're not expanding anything in the zone. But if you look at our use chart, Where did I write it down? Well, but basically, a function hall, which is, at least for me reading the definition, is not an allowed use there. A restaurant is not an allowed use there. And one other item is not an allowed use there. So it doesn't mean, though, you can obviously continue the use because it's become a non-conforming use. But there's rules about, so basically what you got here is, if you look at page 15, item, Roman numeral 2-3B, it says that a non-conforming use may be expanded within the boundaries of a lot if the expanded use complies with dimensional standards to the greatest extent practicable as determined by the CEO, except as provided in another section it points you to. So what I would suggest is because if you go and you look at the use table, those uses aren't actually allowed anymore. It makes you a non-conforming use, but it doesn't mean you can't expand. According to this, you have to prove that you meet the dimensional standards to the greatest practical extent. Do I have that right, Brenda?
Yep.
Question, do you understand that? No, I'm just saying.
I mean, we can write it up for you.
Changed. What was allowed at one time is no longer allowed.
Yeah.
But existing uses are now non-conforming uses which are allowed, but those uses cannot be expanded.
Right. So, I'm talking about the event space you're expanding. You have an existing restaurant. I don't think you're expanding that.
Nope.
Yeah, a cafe. That counts in that definition. And then you probably want to look at the definition of outdoor recreation in the land use and let us know whether you're expanding that. I don't think that's in your proposal, but function hall is definitely a non-conforming use. And I did look through, I couldn't find anything else that
I don't have a
that
statement
fit
on
that
that.
category,
No, I
it
can
fits
offer a
that
statement on
category
both those.
perfectly. Not to get too far ahead of myself. Okay, I'd suggest we close for the night. The applicant has some things to bring back. Does that make sense to people? Let's just make sure they walk away with what it
The
is.
applicant, okay.
Recess, right? Not closed.
What's that?
Recess, not closed, right?
Oh, no, not closed. No,
Continue.
Continue,
Okay.
I'm very sorry, yeah, no.
I
no
just
way.
making sure.
So I think what we have is the phosphorus export calculations, the whole place and the add-on, the engineering, approved engineering design for the tank.
With the water records.
Yep, with the water records.
I'll have a statement on the maximum coverage.
Yes, look at the maximum impervious coverage.
I'll have a statement on the boat launch and the treatment of the boats and meeting all the current requirements.
Yeah, I think that's a statement.
Yep.
Yeah.
Statement on events, the type, duration, number of average, and the projected.
Yeah, project it as best you
As
can.
well. And then a statement on the non-conforming use situation and the outdoor recreation
Got it.
situation.
I think that's everything. Okay? Anything else from anybody? Kathy?
Stormwater along with the phosphorus, they sort of tie together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make a special note on that.
Brenda's gonna try and get the prior, see if there is a prior
If there was a
stormwater plan.
prior.
It might not be. Okay?
We'll provide it even if it's not, and we can put an asterisk next to it to
Okay.
identify it as outside of the
Terrific,
visible calculation.
terrific. Thank you, I really appreciate your patience tonight.
Appreciate you guys.
We didn't get to you as quickly as
Yeah.
we would have
Thank you.
planned
Hey,
to.
this
So we
takes as long as it
appreciate your
takes.
patience.
It's been great.
One question, do you have any questions, and can you have this material for the October meeting?
I hope so. If there's
'Cause I
any
think
way
we'd
to
like
have one
to-
halfway through this month, I'll do that. But
Okay.
if October is the date, then that's what we'll do.
Yeah, so it'll be the first Tuesday in October?
October 3rd?
I don't know
Think
what
so.
date it is, October 3rd?
Sounds
And you'll
right.
need to have, because we're in a public hearing phase, you'll need to have that information in 12 days in advance,
September 21st.
September 21st.
Okay.
So,
And this will be noticed again?
no, you don't have to notice it. That you get to skip this time.
I had to handwrite all
And,
this.
and the intent would be that, you know, if you, we've asked you for certain evidence, if it's all there, the intent would be to deliberate and make a decision on October 3rd.
That'd be fantastic.
Okay?
That's all this.
Thank you very much.
Terrific. Thank you
Appreciate it.
again for your
Thank you.
patience.
Thank you.
I'm a maintenance guy and the groundskeeper over there.
Yeah, can you go to the mic, please? State your name and,
Rich Croyer,
yeah?
Buswell Road, 54 Buswell Road. And I am gonna talk to Bobby and Carla about this boat thing. I always said that it's a lot easier for these people who do bring their boats to our resort to bring it over to the other launch. It's much easier for everybody.
To the town launch.
And then they can wash their boat there. There's someone there checking the boats,
Inspector, yeah.
you know, because then we would have to have somebody there
Yep.
checking these boats all the time. And we could just use our launch with kayaks and stuff like that.
That's a terrific idea.
That's not a
great
problem,
idea.
right? You know, so.
Unfortunately, the new law includes kayaks.
So does it?
Yes.
I'll wash
those are
down,
easier
I'll
to
wash down
wash off
kayaks, but I'm not gonna be washing down these guys' boats. you
Yeah,
know?
don't blame them there.
And it's
Yeah.
much easier for them to put it in over at the public launch
Oh,
than it
yeah,
is on
definitely.
ours, because it's kinda tight and everything else,
There's
so.
less wear and tear on your shoreline now.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that part
you know,
too.
yeah.
Okay,
So I'm gonna suggest that to Carla and Bobby, and we'll let you know on the next.
sounds
meeting.
good. Easier for you not to take on that
Excellent.
responsibility.
Thank you.
So just update us, if you will, in October. Under other, just a reminder that we have a workshop in,
You skipped one.
Skip another.
oh, the extension request, I'm sorry. Jeez. Okay, under new business, Chadbourne Hill Solar, there's a note in the file, they've requested a 1-month extension from their 2-year plan in order to come to, before the board for an amendment.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Not a second.
Dan moves,
And it's for,
Angie seconds.
it's for New Leaf, who is now
Now the new owner of the
operating
Saliba
as- So we should
area.
make sure that's part of the motion.
Yeah,
For a year, right?
yeah, it's New Leaf Solar.
New Leaf Energy.
Yeah.
But
So-
for a year, right?
They requested 1 month.
Yeah, a year.
Year.
You said a month, that's,
I'm sorry, they come to us in a month,
yeah.
and then, yes.
So they're gonna come to us next month and ask for a year extension?
No, they're gonna come to us next month with the amendment.
Oh, okay.
And they've asked for a year extension to do it, but actually with the amendment, I think the clock might start over again, so I don't even know that
Okay.
that's gonna be, that they're gonna need that. So I would just make the motion to extend their current approval until October.
Yeah, because
So-
I think their approval ran out, runs out this month, that's why they
Right.
need the extension.
So they rushed to put in an amendment, and not rushed, but they put an amendment, and we no longer had time on the schedule. So, the motion should be to extend their current approval by 1 month.
One month till the October meeting.
Okay, so made by Mr. Harden. I think it's seconded by Mr. Mattson. Any discussion? All in favor? They wrote a very good explanatory letter, one of the better ones I've ever seen.
Excellent.
Okay, now, a reminder on other. We have in 2 weeks, third Tuesday, we have a workshop on LD 2003. Our attorney will be attending.
What's that date? Is that?
That is 14 days from today, which
Oh,
is
it's already
the
on my
what?
schedule.
The 19th.
The 19th.
Yeah.
So the attorney will be present via Zoom. We will be going through kind of the same set of decisions and items that we've gone through before, and just try to actually now get it integrated into an ordinance, and obviously ask her questions or vice versa, have discussion around certain items. So just want you to be ready for that. And that's it.
All right.
Motion
Ken moves to adjourn.
Yep.
I guess Dan will be the
I'll
second. All in favor?
All of us.
We can.